Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Ayo me fele sama,
Me fele sama,
mama me fele sama,
me fele sama,
tisa me fele sama,
me fele sama,
ay mama me fele sama,
me fele sama,
brother me fele sama,
me fele sama, me fele sama, me fele sama, me fele sama, me fele sama, me fele sama.
mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama, mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama, mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama, mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Ayo me fele sama,
Me fele sama,
mama me fele sama,
me fele sama,
tita me fele sama,
me fele sama,
mama me fele sama,
me fele sama,
me fele sama.
me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama, mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama. Ayo.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi.
Fire burn them dirty king, blaze up them dirty king, fire burn them king. Send him disastrous, and time he fast with us, ancestors walk with us, fire burn them king. Tendai Mwadi. Be thankful unto the Mother, Father, creative life force of the universe. Kodzai Muzimu Mukuru. Give praises unto our great ancestors. Abibi Tumi, Abibi Fahodi, African power and African liberation for all African people. Yes, indeed, family. We're back again, yeah, for another edition of Zivanayi. For those who are not aware, and I got some reports that says some brothers and sisters they might have some difficulty, I pronounce the word Zivanayi, yeah, and I did when I decided to call this show, yeah, that word, yeah, I did, yeah, I did have, I did consider that still, I did consider that this idea that some people may have difficulty um pronouncing the word, but we have to just learn to work with the thing, yeah, and get some good African words around the tongue. But for those who are not aware, the words Zivanai simply mean let us get to know, yes, particularly in relation to social interaction, yeah, getting to know each other as human beings and in particular as African people. And so when they are, yeah, it's open house, yeah. So for those who are new to the thing, I basically open up, yeah, with whatever dep and fimi mind, yeah, you know what I'm saying, and then when can come and either expand upon whatever I've brought to the table, or you can bring your own subjects. It's open house. The only criteria is respect and due honor to all involved. And we just spend a couple hours just vibes in together. So bigging up all those locked in, locked on so far. If you would like to come live, yeah, you are going to have to come and watch via gotkushTV on YouTube. Okay, so wherever you're watching, if you're not watching on gotkushTV via YouTube, there is a link in the description to the video that will take you where you need to go. We're simulcasting for promotional purposes right here now, which we will cease to do in a few months' time. But for now, I say it go. And so the link to join the panel, to come live with me, is in the chat for the YouTube stream, yeah, the gotkushTV YouTube stream. So come there, sir, to get the live link to join the panel. All right. Also, been hearing that some people them not receive the notification, yeah, when we go live or when there's a video dropping or whatever. So this is a pretty regular issue that channels, yeah, on YouTube have, especially those that are not tied to corporate interests. And so it's that the algorithm, it now go, boost up and promote where we are say. You know what I'm saying? More than so. So what we've done is we've created a Telegram, yeah, channel, which is Telegram is like, for those who don't have it, it's like a WhatsApp alternative, yeah, and you can create groups. But the good thing about this one is that you can create groups that are connected to channels, and that only admin can post in. And then there's a connected one that if people want to have discussion, they can have discussion in that group. But for those who want to have to get our notifications more directly, especially to your phone, feel free to click the link in the description and in the chat or in the chat that relates to joining the Telegram group, yeah, for these things. All right. So well, big up everybody that's come through so far. I usually do this at the beginning, but I'm assuming, yeah, that that everybody can hear me because nobody else of them can hear, right? You know what I mean? So big up to Mr. IC3, big up to Set Imhotep in the building, big up to King Gold, big up Scattered Mind, said fully put in my to be fair, my brother, you're not the only one. You're not the only one. You're not the only one. So I wasn't even thinking about you when I said it. Yeah, you're not the only one. Big up to Heathen. Yeah, well, an interesting piece on him. I'm sure there's a story behind that. And big up Daydream, who says you show it's not growing because you're not consistent, bro. You need to be more consistent. You're like twice every month. Be consistent, and your show will definitely grow. Thank you for the advice. At the moment, I'm like once a week. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what you're watching on, but we're live on gotkushTV basically once a week. Like maybe week up before last, we missed the week, but yeah, So I take your point. Yeah, but yeah, gotkushTV is growing and has been growing. And yeah, we're not there part of thing for popularity, individual popularity, you know. But we do, I take the point, have to be consistent if we are looking to grow a media platform. And that is the reason why at the moment we are live once a week, as we are developing the infrastructure around the channel, you know, developing the production facilities and capacities, to develop more shows, to record more new shows, and so on and so forth. Yeah. So this is just you know, us making sure that we have a regular platform through which to interact with you all, yeah, at least for the foreseeable future. And in the background, yeah, we have things coming up. You know, I'm going to be releasing videos from some of our previous events, some unreleased material from our Kush University featuring brother Robin Walker and Dalian Adolfo, you know what I'm saying, in among others. Gonna record some more Kush universities, yeah, or we bring you, you know, African center scholars in every field of human activity. Got some podcasts planned, yeah, do you know what I'm saying? You know, so we can have some serious discussions around certain things. So yeah, do stay tuned for our thing there. But once again, give thanks for your concern and your advice. We do appreciate it. So yeah, kings and queens. So you can click this link right here if you're watching on gotkushTV, to join the Telegram group. All right, just click that link and it will take you there. And then this one is to join the chat live here if you want to come live. Some have already done so already. Don't worry, I'm gonna bring on the through soon. Yeah. So do stay true, stay where you are. I'm gonna bring you through soon, okay? And finally, I want to make the people them know that we have a Patreon. So if you want to support us financially, make sure we can get some new mic and some new camera, and other equipment and them thing there. And also, you know, do things like pay expenses for people that we would like to present, places that we want to travel. You know what I'm saying? To cover different pieces of news, and so on and so forth. Yeah. So yeah, you know, feel free to hit up the Patreon. There are no perks and nothing like that associated with it yet. As we develop more content and shows and so on and so forth, we're going to develop the perk system and thing. But for now, it's just for those who love what I do and want to see me rise and grow, and all them thing there. All right. So yeah, let me get into some of the things that have, you know, crossed my mind over the last week. By the way, check out the last show, yeah, the last Zivanayi, yeah. It was a big show, you know. Serious conversation did go on, particularly for well, as facilitated and brought to the show by my brothers from Trinidad. I got three brothers, two of whom are also from Trinidad. So the Trinidad connection is strong, you know. But yeah, the show last week was a very informative conversation, yeah, about dynamics in Trinidad, and how that relates to Pan-Africanism and Pan-Caribbeanism, and so on. So do check that out for that, among other things that were discussed. You know what I'm saying? I thoroughly enjoyed the vibration last week. Okay. So yeah, couple things here. So every first Sunday of the month, as many may know, I'm a born and raised member of the Al-Qaeda Revivalist movement. And every first Sunday of the month we have our what is called Shumila, yeah, which is our spiritual, you know, fellowship, yeah, ritual worship, so to speak. And it just so happened that on that day was also the day that Guinea-Bissau, yeah, election was running. So they had the whole day, brothers and sisters from Guinea-Bissau, full up the whole of the Chestnuts Community Center. And so basically, obviously, you know, foreign nationals, you can still vote, right? So they were you know, exercising their right to vote, and these things, yeah. And it was very interesting because we never know, yeah, that so many Africans from Guinea-Bissau lived in the UK, okay, and it's a significant thing in the sense of the fact that when I've hosted Brother Kemi Seba, I meet people that are from French-speaking African nations. You know, you realize how big the French-speaking African community is in the UK. Yeah, and so it's a lesson, yeah, that even when we're living at the same place, yeah, we're often still divided by languages, usually colonial languages, yeah, and other factors. And so it brought to my mind, yeah, one of the major missions that we have in terms of just crossing the conceptual national borders that we have. Yeah. Like last week I reviewed Africa Liberation Day, and when I posted about Africa Liberation Day on Instagram, a brethren said to me, well, you know, Africa Liberation Day in the UK is basically a Caribbean thing. And I was like, well, that's not really the case, because from I've been going Africa Liberation Day as long as I've been alive, and it's never not been Africans from the continent, sorry, present, either as organizers of the event, attendees to the event, and especially as speakers. Yeah, I've grew up listening and hearing from brothers and sisters from Zimbabwe, Congo, Kenya, South Africa, Namibia, Angola, Ghana, Nigeria, you know, Senegal, Sudan, yeah, you know what I'm saying, Guinea-Bissau, Equatorial Guinea, yeah, all about the place, yeah. That's not to mention the number of nations in the Caribbean or Africans from the United States of America. Yeah. At the same time, I've also been to African Liberation Day observances, depending on who's organizing it, whereby the majority of people that are there are from the continent. Yeah. But it suggests that I have an auntie Affion, yeah, said that sometimes we speak about the Pan-African community, but often there are Pan-African communities, yeah. And so a lot of us do our Pan-African organizing in whatever subdivision of African we come from. So there's a Nigerian Pan-African community, and whenever they hold an event, most of the people there are Nigerian. There's a Ghanaian Pan-African community, and when they host an event, most of the people there are Ghanaian, and the same for at one time I went to we had an event about the Congo, and there were Africans from all over there, but then there was just so happened that there was a Congo brother, sorry, group somewhere in the vicinity of where we're having this event, and he asked, well, why didn't we consult the Congolese community? And there's Congolese brothers and sisters in the event, right? You know what I'm saying? But then they're having an event, you know what I'm saying? But they when we don't know about each other, yeah. So it speaks to one of the challenges of the now. I've often thought that we need to make more connections with brothers and sisters in France and in Spain and in Germany. But reality is we haven't really solidified them links in a London. Yeah. So I'll be interested to know. And that also even relates to Africans from the Caribbean in terms of French speaking versus English speaking. Yeah. You know, if an officer soca and carnival, to what extent would we be connected to each other like that? You know what I mean? You know, it's a very interesting thing. So I'd be interested to know if brothers and sisters have any thoughts about that, especially those of us who live in London, and what we can and should be doing to really cross those bridges. You know what I'm saying? And then it brought to mind as well. Like I said, two more things, and I'm gonna open up the line. Yeah, it brought to mind as well the amount of things that are going on in the black world right about now. Yeah, even last week's show where the brothers were educating us on, the dynamics in Trinidad. Yeah, I know, over the past week, me are looking, what going on Senegal. Big protests are going on Senegal over the fact that a brother who is considered to be the most popular opposition leader to the current president, Macky Sall, and the opposition leader is a brother by the name of Usman Sonko, yeah, who was recently arrested upon corruption charges and a rape charge, which is said to be, both of which are said to be politically motivated, because Macky Sall doesn't want that kind of challenge, yeah, to his presidency. So there's nothing going on there. Then you have what going on Sudan. Then you have what going on Mali and Guinea. Then you have what going always in Congo. You have what going always in Haiti. Yeah. You have what going right now in Jamaica. Yeah. Where the government increased the salary of parliamentarians by 300%. Yeah. This is in a place where a significant amount of the everyday population is poor, whereby people, yeah, routinely, most Jamaicans who are qualified doctors and nurses do not perform their profession in a Jamaica because the infrastructure on the island, in the country, is not sufficient for managing them. Yeah. This is a nation that doesn't have a significant national transportation service of any significance. Yeah. This is to say nothing about waste disposal and all them something there. Yeah. And I'm saying that just considering, especially developing a media organization, staying on top of all of these issues, and it's not really possible for an individual to stay on top of all of these issues, but the task that we have is a very big one. Yeah, in terms of, it's just still on the theme of connection. Yeah, connecting up ourselves and each other. Yeah, it's a very, very big job. Yeah, that we have just on that level. Yeah, so I've been meditating upon this recently. Is the reason why I'm just offloading. You know, I'm speaking aloud at the moment, making know what they're putting film in mind. Yeah, and so that's something that anybody, if they have an idea about that, them can speak on it. But that's the reason why, yeah, having that event and hosting that event with Brother Kemi Seba in April, and the connections that we make from that is so very important. It's the reason why I'm so thankful when brothers and sisters come from Trinidad and other places and speak to you know, Wagwan, you know, where them come from. It's the reason why a couple of weeks ago we touched on the Senegal thing, and we're gonna arrange an interview, yeah, with some brothers and sisters from Senegal. Digging up my brother Abiola So from Nation Kamit, the organization Nation Kamit, who is from Ivory Coast but is currently living in Kenya, yeah, after moving from Congo. Got married, I've Pitney and all them thing there. So congratulations to him and his family. You know what I'm saying? But one of the major roles, yeah, that I see a media institution such as gotkushTV playing is creating a platform for us to strengthen, and a framework for us to strengthen those links, yeah, both nationally and internationally between the African peoples of the world. All right. That's one thing. And a next thing, which may be a little bit left field, yeah. It shouldn't really be. But I did mean some weeks ago to touch on this dynamics with the sister. What's your name again? Why's her name going out of my head? The sister that had the conversation with Iyanla Van Sant when Iyanla asked her if she would date a bus driver. And she said she would date a bus driver if he owned the bus. Yeah, I'm forgetting her name, you know. Somebody remember her name and type it in the chat for me, please. What's your name again? But yeah, anyway, me and my queen have had, and you know, when it did go on, because I wasn't really following it, she let me know about it really. And the first thing I noticed is that only one clip, yeah, from that interview went around, and I'm all fair enough with social media for know where you don't just jump on that clip, you know what I mean? You have to take in all the vibration. And when I did, I thought, you know, there was so much in this conversation that could have been a worthy of discussion that wasn't, because this cheap headline of I would date a bus driver if him did own the bus here, that's caught everybody's attention, and that went around. And then the whole thing that happened afterwards, where she doubled down upon the statement, and suddenly a question that was asked, yeah, in the spirit of her being a non-discriminatory data of men. So she said, you know, I've dated all kind of different men from a racial point of view. In fact, she was engaged to a white man at one point. Suddenly, when she got challenged on what she said, the whole conversation became about black men and black people and black excellence and that kind of different thing. And it just brought to mind now this idea Yeah, for me, the major thing for me was not even. I have a lot to say on the dynamics, the specific dynamics of the conversation that she was having, the statements that she made, the statements that were made in response to her, and so on and so forth. Yeah, but the major thing for me was that so much of our conversation as black men and women about black man-woman dynamics is confrontational and hype and unproductive. And that's not to say that we don't have to confront each other sometimes, yeah. But too much of the black male female conversation is being defined by social media talking heads who are more interested in building their channel than actual productive engagement. And we need to find some ways of overcoming that noise. Yeah. And there are some people that are doing it. It just means that your channel are gonna grow less quickly. You're not gonna bust and blow up and go viral like the next Smaddy. Where come and just say black man stay so and black woman stay so. Yeah, you know what I mean? You're not gonna blow up and go around the world and go viral, as them say, in the same way that those people do. Yeah. But interestingly, you know, when you call for something, and you meditate upon something will come to you. Now, the other day, I had the pleasure, yeah, of joining an organization, the African Caribbean Institute of Jamaica or something, so on a thing whereby they were talking about Kumina, yeah, Kumina, the African ritual tradition, yeah, the African spiritual tradition that is preserved in Jamaica. And so a sister by the name of Diane Stewart, yeah, came into the chat. And I recognized the name immediately. Yeah. Now, there can't be that many Diane M. Stewart around, but when I did see her, I had to ask the question. Yeah. There's a paper that, if you know some of my presentations well, you would have seen me speak on and quote from. Yeah. About Kumina, yeah, as you know, a ritual that strengthened and gave meaning to African nationhood, concepts of African nationhood in Jamaica. So I had to clarify if she, yeah, minute I talked to in the chat, and she confirmed, and I had to thank her for that piece, yeah. But it just led me to Google and see if she's got anything new going on. And so I'm gonna try and make this a feature of Zivanayi, yeah. And let's bring some recommended reading, yeah. So the sister Diane Stewart is mostly known for her work on theology, particularly African spiritual retentions in the Caribbean, yeah. She's got excellent work on this. She's actually just released a 2-volume work on African spiritual systems in Trinidad, yeah. I'll bring that up shortly, but for now, yeah, recommended reading right now on this relationship front. She's also got a book called Black Women, Black Love, America's War on African American Marriage, yeah. And I'm highlighting this book because a lot of the time, a lot of the conversations that we have about black on black relationship, black love relationships, male female, don't fully take into consideration the context that we are operating in as a people, yeah. So I just want to read this blurb for the item. All right. It says, in this analysis of social history, examine the complex lineage of America's oppression of black companionship. According to the 2010 US Census, more than 70% of black women in America are unmarried. Black Women, Black Love reveals how 4 centuries of laws, policies, and customs have created that crisis. Diane Stewart begins in the colonial era, when slave owners denied blacks the right to marry, divided families, and in many cases raped, enslaved, women and girls. Later, during Reconstruction, the ensuing decades, violence split up couples again as millions embarked on the Great Migration North, where the welfare system mandated that women remain single in order to receive government support. And no institution has forbidden black love as effectively as the prison industrial complex, which removes black men en masse from the pool of marriageable partners. Prodigiously researched and deeply felt, Black Women, Black Love reveals how white supremacy has systematically broken the heart of Black America. And it proposes strategies for dismantling the structural forces that have plagued Black love and marriages for centuries. Yeah. So I'm just putting that out there, yeah, as an example of people who are trying to have a more constructive conversation. Now, some of you are wondering, but ShakaRa, this thing say African American, oh, that relate to we, yeah, in the UK or anywhere else within the world. The reality is that there are some things that will relate and some things that won't relate. As it relates to the enslavement process, a lot of those things will actually relate, yeah, especially for us from the Caribbean, yeah, a lot of those things will actually relate. When it comes to the welfare system and so on and so forth, a lot of those things do translate because similar policies were instituted in the UK as in the US of A. But I understand why people find that problematic because a lot of people, especially I would say, no, I don't want to say. I was going to say, especially in manosphere spaces, but I don't even want to limit it to that. Yeah, because it's probably more general than that. But use statistics that relate to America that don't necessarily translate to the UK Black experience, as though, in this instance, they're lampooning or trying to criticize Black women in the UK using statistics that are supposed to, and I say supposed to because how they use statistics is not even always correct, but supposed to relate or give an idea of the behavior or the decision making of African women in America, as though there's always an application. It's not always the case, yeah. But the details are less important to me right here now than the spirit and the approach of the conversation, yeah, if that makes sense, yeah. And so that's just something that I dip on my head right here now. You know, me I meditate upon right here now. So I'm putting those things out there. And with that, I'm gonna open up the lines. Yeah, for those who are just joining us, come through and watch on gotkushTV. Click the link in the chat. Not right now, okay? All right. The link in the chat if you want to come live on the panel to discuss with I. Like I said, you can either, detail or relate to some of the subjects that I have raised myself, or you can raise your own topics. Yeah, it's open house. And with that, I'm gonna bring everybody through who's here right now, live, and you can speak in order of appearance, and that goes for Set Imhotep, Kale, and Monique. You're all three of you are live on the platform right now. You are free to keep your camera off if you so wish. Everything bless. And what may I say no? Oh, by the way, like I was saying before, for those who want to make sure you get your gotkushTV notifications, click the link in the chat to join the Telegram group. Yeah, click the link in the chat to join the Telegram group. Not right now, boss, okay? Baba soon come, all right? Yeah. If you want to get your notifications direct, yeah, because we know the algorithm and the algorithm and the algorithm and the algorithm and so on and so forth. All right. When you can do that, and if you want to support the platform as well, feel free to click this link in your description also to support gotkushTV on a one-off or a monthly basis. Giving thanks one and all. We're going to have some conversation right now. Open house. Greetings and welcomes. Other than my brothers, my favorite Trinity. But I said it was go ahead, King.
I mean, give thanks to that honor, brother. First of all, I wanted to say, I wanted to give you thanks for recommending that Kumina video.
that we were in the live, because it really was quite enlightening.
Yes, I.
Especially coming down to the question and answer section when the schoolgirls were asking some really critically analytical questions.
Yeah, man.
Unfortunately, kind of embarrassed our sister who was giving the lecture a little bit about our Christianity. But no, I was super impressed because at that age, all right, so I assuming they're between somewhere between like 14 and 18 or something like that. At that
Yeah,
age, I was
yeah.
just yeah, at that age, I
Uh,
was just now losing my Catholic faith, just now realizing, oh shit, like this is a enslavement religion, blah 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 blah. So
yes,
I
yes,
wouldn't have been able to have that sort of conversation that they were having. I was
yes, sir.
really not just proud, but like a little bit blown away, because even I internalized some of the white supremacist perspectives of African spaces. And
Yeah.
in my head, well, you don't expect that sort of, let's say, erudite analysis of African spirituality coming from some random Jamaican school children. You understand?
Yes,
And yet,
yes.
you know, um, and then secondly, well, you know me, I like to write down my stuff because my brain very scattered. Second, I wanted to say blessings on your youth because he just want to be in the vibes. You understand? I say that he can come out, enjoy. But
That's it,
I
good
know I was
brother.
kind of I know I was kind of take over the panel a lot when I come on, so I think I will step back a little bit and allow whoever else might want to speak first.
My brother, you're never. In fact, you're never guilty of taking over the panel. So it's you're always humble, and willing to concede the space when appropriate. So don't feel no way about that. Your contributions are always well received. So give thanks, yeah. Give thanks. All right. But yeah, I'm gonna. In fact, what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna share. Sorry, I got a bit of a sore throat going on here, Kings and Queens. Yeah. So forgive me, but I'm gonna share the video. Yeah, to that Kumina conversation that did take place, because it was excellent. And yeah, I too was very touched, yeah, by the kinds of questions and the maturity of the questions that the youth them were asking. And what was even more moving is when them, you know what it is, yeah, I work with young people in our school in our England and them thing there. And when the thing done, and them say, yeah, we're gonna done with, some more chanting and drumming, and she invited the youth them to come and join the thing. The way that they got up and joined in is not something. I'm not like, young people in the UK can be very reserved, yeah, and slow to get involved and express themselves in some, you have to do some serious work, yeah, for draw them out of themselves in that kind of way there. And the youth them just felt seems so, and credit to the sisters them as well, the daughters, I'm forgetting their individual names, but the daughters of the last commoner Queen Bernice, yeah, who were also a part of the whole vibration for welcoming them into that space, and and embracing them in that energy as well. It was a beautiful vibration, but also on an intellectual level, a very informative presentation from the sister who delivered the keynote. So that video, yeah, is in the chat right now for those who want to know when me and set him up I talk about, I'm saying, feel free to check out that in your own space and time. And no doubt my brother will have something more to say a little bit later on. Greetings, Kale.
Greetings, ShakaRa.
Yes,
Greetings, brother. We got the Sun people far and wide. Big up, man. Big up.
Aye.
Yes, brother. I want to go on to a topic, if you allow, and it's basically military science.
Okay,
And
go ahead.
the reason why is that lately there's been a lot of black women globally. They don't feel protected when there's violence within the house by unsynchronized black men.
Yes,
That
yeah.
sometimes it gets to a level where they kill them. There's nowhere for them to go, and when they go to the system, some of the community say, well, why are you going to the system? You know what I mean? Like a Babylon that, and you know what I mean? So obviously growing up in Pan-Africanist movements, right? It's always been linked to, we know that the gangs used to protect our freedom fighters, especially in Birmingham, you know what I mean? And that how it used to be. And you know, and a lot of us are affiliated, you know what I mean? So some of us, we do things underground. I'm going to codify it because I understand I'm on the panel and I don't want anything to be shut down. So we
No,
do things that are undercover
yes, sir.
that if the, especially when you're in a segregated community, and that if black women are approaching the wrong way, because it's relatives and friends and affiliation, we can deal with it. What I was saying was, brother, is that we need the black men and the youth to understand military science, what it comprises of for community service, teaching them certain ways, whether it be unarmed combat or armed combat. And if we assure them, because I know this will work because we do this anyway, that if anything was to happen, that your families would be taken care of financially in all ways. I know it's very serious, but protecting black women is very important. So I just wanted for you to go on that.
My brother, it's never a subject that we should feel in any way apologetic for raising. Yeah, especially as men, it's our duty to be a protective force in our communities, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, and to the extent that black women do not feel protected is the extent to which we should be concerned about it. Yeah, about having that conversation. And I think, in my humble estimation, that there's two sides, yeah, to this conversation. The first is sometimes we have conversations outside of their context, and therefore we can make one issue obscure all other issues and therefore not solve the problem holistically. Yeah. The reason why black women are not protected in our communities, to the extent that is the case, yeah, to whatever extent that is the case, is because our community in general is not protected. Yeah. I remember a brother by the name of Renoko Rashidi came over for Africa Liberation Day right there in Birmingham, where there. And he does work in the USA in terms of like gang intervention, working with young black men who are committing violence within the black community. And he said something, this is over a decade ago now, yeah, that I understood then, but I didn't fully understand it then. Yeah. And he said black men will not stop being violent towards black women until we learn to stop killing each other. Yeah. And I got what he was saying, but I didn't fully get it. Yeah. And I understand it. The problem is that our community is not protected. The young people are not protected. The violence in our communities, yeah, is not just limited to domestic violence, so to speak. Okay. We live in communities to a significant degree sometimes, yeah, whereby violence is at a very high level and that manifests in various different ways. And so if we're not dealing with it as a holistic issue, yeah, then we will miss the mark, so to speak. Yeah. That's one issue. The second issue, yeah, is for me, our ideal manhood. Yeah, our ideals of manhood, and how that plays into the men we become, and two, the type of men that we're raising in the community. Yeah. And so it's interesting that you put this in the context of military science. Yeah. And there is some research, in fact, from brother Professor Tommy J. Curry, yeah, who I don't want to go into, because I don't want to misquote his thing, but it suggests that there are a lot of there's a lot of information that is not looked at in terms of how violence manifests in our communities. Yeah. And which in his estimation is designed to pathologize in a particular kind of way black men. And that's not to say that black men do not have role, responsibility, and need to take accountability, but it is to say that we need to be mindful of not carrying other people's pathologies into our solution base or into our solution orientation, right? You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So when I say that now, what I mean is that when we talk about the issue of domestic violence as perpetrated by black men towards black women, that for me is a fundamental issue of manhood. Yeah. And the kinds of men we have been trained to become, and the kinds of men that we have failed to produce among ourselves, each other, and our younger generations. Yeah. So protection for me is not if a man lick your sister, your mother, your cousin, your best friend. You know, there's 10 men that are ready, yeah, to go down there and do that man something. Although that may become necessary at some point. For me, protection is what is our ideal of manhood? Yeah. Prevention is better than cure, them say. Yeah. And how do we create the kind of men that are conducive to performing the function, the roles that we need men to perform in our communities? And unless we're answering that question, in my humble estimation, we're not actually solving the problem. I'll say one last thing. Slow to condemn the sisters, yeah? And I know a lot of men get sticky and digi when it comes to these issues, yeah, because we feel attacked as man them. And reality is that there are some who are trying to attack us. At the same time, perception becomes our reality. And if our women don't feel protected, like I said before, we need to pay attention to that. If we see it as our duty to be a protecting force in our communities. Yeah. And if we don't, I would consider that to be a deficient form or ideal of manhood. So I completely harmonize, Brother Kel, with the concern that you've brought there. You know, I completely sympathize with it, and it kind of relates to what I was talking about before, because even now I still can't remember the sister's name, you know, but she also said that she's never been in any, she never felt that kind of protection from, well, she said any kind of man still, but then when she doubled down on it, she made it specific to black men. Yeah. And so that's something that we should be concerned about. Yeah, and it may be that there are certain things in terms of perception that we need to challenge, but it is something that we need to be concerned about, you know. So I'll come back to you, Karen, to see if you got anything to follow up there.
Quickly, brother, is
Yeah,
the sister named Ebony?
Ebony
No?
Oh, Ebony K. Williams. Ebony K. Williams. Yes, yeah, that's who she is. Yeah. Yeah, Ebony K. Williams. Yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah, KO. If you had a follow up there, feel free.
Yeah. So yeah, man. So as I said before, a lot of us are affiliated, brother. So I've spoken to certain relatives that were very prolific back in the days. You know what I mean? And they're on board. And we can make this a global movement. The only thing that they were saying, which I totally agree, is that they need reassuring that the community will take care of their families. Now, brother, this is very, very important, because if we are going to police our areas and make this a global movement, sometimes, brother, things are going to get out of hand. You know,
No, of course.
you understand, with political science and military science. So what I'm referring to and proposing is that the community must fund protection against non-African people who want to exploit the areas, as well as unsynchronized black people as well.
No,
It must
I,
be
I, bro,
yeah.
I agree. I agree. You know what I'm saying? I agree. And the reality is that, you know, that those funding and that kind of that level of it requires serious organization on some serious levels. You know what I'm saying? And it's not even because I'm just mindful of the number of things that are involved in something like that. You know, it's things like counseling and things like I said, rites of passage. We also have to be able to not just deal with the perpetrators, but also manage the victims, yeah, and be able to counsel them. There's a book that I have, which I'm yet to read. I'll try to find it, called "Pulling the Punches." Yeah, it's by a brother who does counseling for men who believe themselves to be possible perpetrators of domestic violence. Some of them have not even committed it yet. They just think that they got anger issues that will put them in that category at some point. And so we need those kind of services for men, yeah, to be able to deal with their own issues as well. Yeah. So there's a whole lot that go, and so I'm agreeing with your point completely. And I see you raising your hand there, my brother. So let me come to you. Say to me, what's it?
Yeah, actually, I don't want to preempt this testimony too much, but I'm seeing the elder Mr. IC3 posting in the YouTube chat some really, I don't know, boy, disingenuous comparisons. He comparing the worth of the pound sterling to the worth of certain other countries' currency, and therefore that their lives are equal. So he has one here. It says 1 pound sterling equals 1,268 Malawian kwacha, which makes one British life with 1,268 Malawian lives. Like, I can understand the perspective that might come from, but it's just such a false statement on its face that, you know, I felt like it was addressed it before because he just keeps posting them, you know.
Okay. Yeah, with brother IC3, you know, brother IC3 has a extra energy, you know what I'm saying? So sometimes you have to let you have to say IC3 with IC3, you know, it come with a Jankuno vibration all the while, you know. So yeah. But I haven't actually read the comments, so I'll read it and try to get an understanding. And if it's
Yeah, don't
important.
beat up. Don't beat up because Coffee now come in the chat talking about a derail the convo, right? So let me, I will just take it back off of that and let brother Monique. Let's
Him have an axe for grind right here now. You know what I'm saying? Oh, sorry, I thought he meant last week. You mean he means this conversation right here? No. That's fine. That's fine. We can't come back around. Don't worry about it, Coffee. You know what I'm saying? Don't worry about it. But just to say, this is the book. Yeah. Pulling the Punches, Defeating Domestic Violence by Luke Daniels. Yeah, and I will have him on gotkushTV soon. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
It says, I'll read the blurb for you. It says, Pulling the Punches is the first book addressed specifically to perpetrators of domestic violence, but survivors will find much in it that gives them power in the abusive relationship and offers hints for their safety. In addition, the issues dealt with are of general interest to everyone concerned about ending wars and stopping violence in all its manifestations, including towards children, in the name of discipline. Yeah. The family and loved ones of those with abusive partners will find much helpful guidance in this book, and it will be useful to educators, social work students, probation officers, nurses, doctors, and counselors. Indeed, anyone working for a better society will find the book a mine of information and encouragement. Yeah. So just that another reading suggestion for those who are interested in this. Yeah. Because it's a very complex issue and there's a whole heap of things that go into it, and so we need a multifaceted approach. So I thank you, yeah, brother Kel, especially as being a man, for raising that issue. Yeah, because it's an issue that a lot of us run from. Like I said, because we often feel under attack. I know you're a man. You're growing to be a man. All right. So we're going to make sure you're going to be a good, strong African man who's going to treat African women right. Okay. Give thanks, Kel. I'm stay. Feel free to stay where you are. I'm gonna move on to my sister Monique Adonaya.
Okay, hi. So well, I really only came on to support, but I would like to add a few points with respect to the relationships between men and women, African men and women. We
Yes,
have to, I think that we have to keep in mind that we endured over 400 years of slavery, and the family structure that was developed there over time, it became what was normal. So coming out of that 400 years, and we're not even 400 years later, we are still undoing the trauma, and we need to recognize that. And one of the ways that we're going to get better as Black people is to identify trauma within us, especially for Caribbean people. Because we have, and well, I don't know where else, but you'll have, there'll be different types of trauma based on where you live and the experiences. Um, Compounding the issue of slavery. And in order for us to heal, learn, and grow, we have to identify, okay, how has this affected me? And we need to get educated on how we're going to heal that trauma. We need to find the tools, and then we could build from there. I don't feel like there's any other way to do it. Maybe there is, but it starts there. You have to get the education in order to know, like, because you can't like make a strategy on something. So like when people go to war, they usually study their enemies. So in this instance, we have to study what we have dealt with. We have to study ourselves and then make plans to make it better.
I 100% agree, my sister. You know, and what I love is your emphasis on using that context as an analysis, as a backdrop for addressing the issue. Yeah. So when I just say, well, if I know that we was enslaved, no, this is, we have to understand what that means, yeah, in terms of our family structure, right? In terms of what was broken down, and then we can look at, because look, you see, my observation, yeah, in terms of a lot of the manosphere dynamic and these men that are out here talking, we are talking about traditional marriage and traditional relationship and rare. I mean, I ask them, well, really and truly, we are called traditional because what is traditional to one culture is not traditional to the next culture. And then no, them start bringing some argument about nuclear family. I'm saying, where we get nuclear family from? Yeah. Our family structure is not the nuclear family. Yeah, but me couldn't go on my grandmother and tell her, say, no, you are not a part of the nuclear family. Yeah. Not go so. We can't go to my Auntie Sandra and tell her, say, no, you're not a part of the nuclear family. One name so. Yeah. So culturally, we're not a nuclear family. Our family structure is extended. Yeah. And so when we begin to have conversations, in my humble estimation, where we talk about the solution is in traditional marriage and nuclear family, usually we're coming from a European center. Yeah, and we want, you know, we need to reanalyze those dynamics, you know, in terms of how we formulate solutions. You know what I'm saying? You know, but yes, it's give such information. I don't want. I feel like you have more to say, so I want to come back to you and get what more you had to say out there. You know, I don't have to be on this subject either, so feel free, Sister Monique.
With respect to what you just said about the nuclear family, I think that is like a failure, because if you look at African society, a lot of it is extended, and that works because in the nuclear family, being a single parent, I can tell you it's a lot, and even with two parents, it is a lot. So with the extended family systems that we have had, it helps because each person has a role, and the children benefit more in terms of learning different things from different family members and so forth. But I think that in bringing that back and in dismantling this whole belief of you just need mommy, daddy, and the children, we will heal a lot of the trauma that we experience, not only in slavery, but after slavery. And we'll build a stronger community, because a part of contributing to society, etc., is knowing yourself. If you don't know you, you can come and tell me anything. Or you don't know what you're about, you don't know what you have to actually contribute. And I think you could correct me if I'm wrong, but the biggest part of knowing yourself is knowing where you came from. And the first set of people that you come from is your family.
Serious thing. Serious thing. I you know, it's a yeah, it's a serious thing. It's a serious thing. You know that when we talk about diaspora, yeah, and like as Africans coming through the Caribbean now, especially those of us who live outside of the Caribbean, it's a whole next dynamic, yeah, because we've been there since the 1940s and 50s, and enough of where we have grandparents, most of where we don't know nothing about great grand, yeah, and great grand. I remember going to Jamaica in 1997 and going to Haddington in Hanover and seeing my great grandmother's grave, yeah, and she next to my great grandfather and a few other members of the family and everything there, and that sense of connectedness, yeah, is very serious, and this is something that is in fact exemplified in African spiritual systems, yeah. Like if when you're dealing with like Ifa, the Yoruba spiritual system, for example, then you'll be told before you talk to any Orisha, yeah, you have to deal with your ancestor them, yeah, right, yeah, you're right though. First is your Ori, yeah, and then then your ancestors. Before you go to Shango and Oshun and Eshu, you have to consult, you have to go to your ancestors. You have to honor your ancestors, yeah, because that direct lineage is entirely important. So I completely harmonize with what you're saying there, my sister. What was there anything that you wanted to raise independently of the topics that have already been raised? Did you have your own topic that you wanted to raise, or
No, I really just came on to support.
that's fine?
As the points came up, I had to add, my
Yeah.
2 cents.
Yes, sir. That's fine, sister. Feel free to stay right where you're there. Welcome. You know what I'm saying? More Trinity, the more Trinity, the better, the more Trinity, the better. You know what
I kind of wanted to dichotomize maybe I'm not expert enough to do this properly, right? But dichotomize the view of the male-female relationship or the parents' relationship to each other within Kimoyo traditions and
yes.
within Christianity,
Yes.
right? Because I actually firmly believe that the biggest problem in Atlantic African, because I can't speak for the continent,
Yes.
male-female relationships
Yes.
is this Christian mindset that the African man has to be the so-called head of the household,
Of course.
and that the African woman is I was watching a video just earlier today about the mistranslation of
Yes.
the Hebrew word that is translated as rib in English, where
Okay.
Eve is supposed to have come from the so-called rib
Rib.
of
Yes.
Adam.
Yes.
However, the person goes through the Hebrew and he says that the word that they use that they translate as rib is never translated as rib at any other time in the Bible. The
Right.
actual word for rib is translated as rib every other time in the Bible. And
Right.
the word that they use for rib in this circumstance is something like side, but it gives the connotation of being like two
Yeah.
things parallel or
Yeah.
imbalance or something like that. So like
Yeah.
doors would have those
Right.
two
Yeah.
things,
Right.
right?
Right.
And so basically what he's suggesting is that the actual interpretation of that would have been the woman is just an equal part. She's just the counterpart to the man, right? But my suspicion is, as I said, this idea that the black man is supposed to dominate over his family
Yes.
is the biggest load of bollocks that I've encountered in the longest while. Because unless I'm mistaken, in a lot of African traditional societies, men don't even be around their family. They be out with the men hunting and being soldiers and that kind of shit. There might be some men who stay within the particular villages and assist the woman in administering the village. But as far as I'm aware, as
Well, look.
minute as my awareness might be,
Here's the thing, right? So when you're looking at African culture, African societies, yeah, there are similarities and then there are variations and differences, yeah. So one thing, like the sister Monique has already said, one similarity across all is this idea of community, wider extended family structure. Yeah, how that extended family structure may manifest itself might be different for each group. Yeah, so for example, yeah, and forgive me because the entirety of the group here is missing me, but it's probably it's more than one anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But there are some family structures whereby your mother and the whole affair side of the family is your mother. Yeah. Right? And your father and the whole affair side of the family is your father. Yeah. So there are roles, like for example, in the Gara, the Gara system, yeah. Angela, I'm bringing you through now. In the Gara system, if you read of Water and the Spirit by Malado Masome, yeah, when he was going through his rites of passage, yeah, he's at, and this is instructive, right, for what we're having, the conversation that we're having at the moment, even to what Kay was saying. Malado Masome, for those who are not aware, was is now an ancestor who he grew up in traditional Dagara society, yeah. Dagara is a people group that now resides in Burkina Faso. There are Dagara in Mali and some other places, but mostly Burkina Faso. And his grandfather was a traditionalist priest, for want of a better terminology, yeah. And his father, I believe, converted to Catholicism. Somewhere in his childhood, he was taken off to a Catholic, what do they call it again? The school name?
Boarding school.
Yeah, boarding missionary school, something still anyway. We can't remember. Seminary, no, that's the religious education.
Finishing school, grammar school.
Can't remember.
I said finishing school, grammar school.
Can't remember, but some kind of boarding school anyway. At some point, he escapes and returns here to his people there. And so, even though he's past the age of rites of passage, in order to be integrated back into his community, they have to take it monastery. That's what I was looking for. Thank you, Mr. Bunya. Yeah, what's it called? So what's it? What may I say no? Yeah, and what happens is, yeah, he has to be taken through the rites of passage program, formally initiated into manhood as a way of reacculturating himself to his people. Okay, and then what happens is he has a lot of anger because of his experience. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? He was abused in the Catholic people in school, and so on and so forth. Yeah, and he has a lot of anger. Yeah, and so his maternal uncle had a particular role, yeah, to play. The man who is the brother of his mother, yes, has a particular role to play in his life because he is the brother of his mother. Yeah, and so he has a particular function in terms of counseling him to overcome his anger. Yeah, but he has that role as a part of the extended family, but as the maternal uncle. Now that same man, yeah, may be the paternal uncle to somebody else and have a completely different functional role, right? This is what I'm saying. But in relation to this one, yeah, so it's there are whole complex family systems that we have, yeah, and even more than that, there are whole complex family systems that we preserved and or developed and or invented, tapping back into what Sister Monique was saying, to survive and maintain and sustain ourselves in the plantation experience. One of the most understudied aspects of, and I think the sister touches on that in the book that I mentioned earlier, Black Women, Black Love, of our experience of enslavement in the Caribbean, in the Americas, is how we maintain family structures, yeah, on the plantation, how we maintain marriages, how when someone's child was taken far and far away, how the Africans on that other plantation would organize to take care of that child, yeah, and induct them into a family, right? You know what I'm saying? Or, you know, all them something there. We have to look at these things and bear those things in mind because they're a part of our experience, yeah. And when we do that, then we get over ourselves as men, and this head of the household, at least as it's defined from a Western point of view, because that's a lot of that's egoism. And coming back to what you were saying, Setem Imhotep, the idea of submission as well. So there are some that say that because that's a very biblical concept or King James version concept that some people say is often mistranslated also. But it's funny that you have a holy man that claim to be atheist and claim to be not religious, but then want to submit. in the house, yeah, and they're getting that straight from the Bible. So, so you know what I mean. So it's a bad thing, and that's not to say, you know, that sometimes we can't do it some more cooperation from the woman them certain time, yeah. But cooperation is different from submission, you know. I want to need to know that. Have your word, Setimotep, and then I'm gonna go to Bunya and then Angelo.
You probably should let Bunya go first because I was actually just messaging Angelo and I want to give him an alley when he come on the
All right,
platform.
no,
So
no worries,
listen.
no worries, no worries, no worries. Come true, Mr. Bunya.
Oh, no, but also big up position Monique for coming on the panel. She was listening all the
Yeah,
time
man.
and she decided to join today.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. You know, give thanks to Monique for coming through. We appreciate it. Come true, Bunya.
Mic check. Mic check.
I mean,
Loud, loud enough? Is that loud enough?
yeah, man. The voice that the woman them love, you know.
Greetings, family. Hope
Yes.
everybody is well.
Yeah, man.
Brother Kale, big up yourself. Yeah, man.
Yes, good.
Yeah, it's good to see that this is a regular thing now. I hope it can be as free flowing as possible as well.
Yes, sir.
You know? Well, there's a few things I wanted to discuss. Firstly, I just wanted to say rest in peace to Sunu. Sunu, also known as, let me just get his full name, Mamadou Mustafa Gay, is a filmmaker from Senegal. He's part of the Cinebanlieue, let's call it cooperative,
Right.
African centered initiative started by a man called Monsieur Boy, Abdelaziz Boy. Unfortunately, Sunu died this week. He perished on the 1st of June as a result of coming into contact with tear gas in the midst of a rally that he was not part of.
Wow.
You know, he's the amount of people that have the amount of outpourings that have come this week is quite overwhelming. I practically lived with Sunu for a good 3 months on and off last year. We didn't share a common language, so there was a lot of kind of non-verbal communication and that, but the energy was unmistakable.
Yes, sir.
And he'll be sorely missed, man. He'll be sorely missed. It's tragic. It's really sad, and very unfair as well. You know, so in the midst of all of these protests and whatnot, I don't even know which protest it was. There's so many going on at the moment, and there's so much conflict going on in Senegal at the moment. It could be any one of them. But what I do know is even the friends and family of the man are still calling for peace, and it's the Murids and the Baifal and them and that whole energy and that whole social network that is keeping that country together. Because without it, boy,
Yeah,
like,
I hear you. I hear you. Just to say, yeah, man, rest in power to the brother. Thank you for sharing that. Love to his family. 'Cause I'm sure it must be difficult. And yeah, like I've been trying to catch up on what's been going on in Senegal, and a lot of things are taking place. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
A lot of things are taking place. And most of what is being reported is surrounding protests that are in support of the brother Usman Sonko.
Yeah.
But from what you're saying, that there's more than that going on, and maybe it's all related. But I'm just remembering that just a reminder for those who may not be aware, there were protests in Senegal a couple years ago, yeah, whereby people were mashing up French-owned stores and businesses, yeah, and all kind of different things. And Sonko was also arrested in the midst of that as well. And also you shared an experience of another sister who had passed away the last time you came on, Bunya.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
In relation to a specific issue.
Yeah, man.
So yeah, a lot of things are taking place, and so yeah, thank you for sharing that. It's good to get the underground experience. You know what I mean?
and keep it like the thing is things are accelerating over there. Obviously, the whole when name I always forget his name. The president, what's his name?
Macky Sall, yeah.
Eh? Macky
Macky
Sall, yeah, exactly.
Mm.
This brother's talking about the new constitution being the factor that allows him to sit for another 8 years or another 2 terms or whatnot. That's where
Yeah.
most of the conflict is from.
It's coming from the people that wanted to do that. Apparently, though, his justification for that is some change in the constitution when he first came in that limited that lessened the term times. Apparently, his justification is that basically if that did never go on, he'd have had a few more years, like by constitutional standard, if that makes sense.
Right.
And I think so the talk. I'm explaining this now because he brought it up and because I didn't explain it all earlier. The talk is that the arrest of and the imprisonment, because he's been charged and in prison for 2 years at this point, as I understand it, Usman Sonko.
Is he in jail? He's in jail then?
Well, as I understand it, he's been sentenced. Yeah. I don't know if he's actually physically in jail at the moment. I think he's still in custody. But he's been sentenced for 2 years, and the idea basically is that is politically motivated rather than to do with anything, just, so to speak. Me say them bondong the law faculty as well in Dakar University. Yeah, the people them bond it down. But as a protest against the legal system in the nation. Yeah, and it's interesting because up until very recently, Senegal, along with Ivory Coast, were considered to be these bastions of stability. Yeah, in West Africa. Yeah, these are the stable democracies. Because people are peacefully getting on with their business. It's as though people thought that the masses of the people were depoliticized. And if nothing else, I'm not an expert on Sonko, so I'm not necessarily advocating for him at this point. But what I am made to understand is that he is very much supported among the younger generation. In Senegal, because he speaks out against things like the French stranglehold on the nation. He speaks out against he was once the tax officer or minister of taxes or something like that, and he speaks out against corruption in the government. And things of that nature. Yeah, and apparently, and I haven't heard this for myself, but I have heard it reported that he has a Pan-African kind of inclination. And for those reasons, he has a significant support among the youth them in Senegal. So these
massive,
are
massive.
No,
he's got massive support. That's anyone I really spoke to was really rooting for that man, and obviously you could never really know the true ins and outs of people and business, but one thing is for sure is obviously Macky Sall is trying a thing, and he's fully supported by the ECOWAS soldiers and all them people there and all of that business. So
there are soldiers on the streets, and sorry, this is the point. You reminded me because you're saying that the brother Suno, Suno?
Suno,
was died as a result of tear gas. Yeah, so it's important for brothers and sisters to understand that the army is out on the streets, and the army in majority black nations in Africa and the Caribbean are generally speaking used as an extension of the police force. Yeah. In nations like Britain and America, unless under extreme circumstances, it's actually illegal for the military to be out in force on the streets. Yeah, it's actually illegal. But in African nations and in Caribbean nations, it's regular. It's normal. You hardly ever, if ever, see the army deployed anywhere in defense of the nation.
Right.
But now they're out on the streets, resulting in the death, of citizens of the nation. That going in Nigeria, that going in Congo, that going in Haiti, that going in Jamaica, go on all about the place. Yeah, why? Because the army is protecting the foreign interests of colonizers. And I'm sorry to speak in so much broad terminology here, but it's real. Yeah, it's like literally they're protecting the property of some Frenchman. Yeah, that's a go on right here now. And people are dying because the army is not designed to protect the people of Senegal, but the colonizers of Senegal.
That's right.
That is the vibration that is going on at the moment. You know, and up until recently, I don't know how it's going to affect the tourism, because Senegal was fast becoming the hot tourism destination. People them just come back from Senegal to reggae. You know,
The mad thing is them Europeans just still go same way, you know.
Of course, because them nobody now trouble them, you know. It's you know like when you watch a BBC report and the man writing in the middle of the war, yeah, bomb just drop behind him, yeah, and him now get touched. Yeah, right.
If fact the bullet would go around him, you know.
Around him, yeah, you know what I mean. that's how the thing go. You know, yeah, the bullet, them know for sight white skin, man. Them know for sight white skin, man. You know what I mean? Yeah, they recognize the French accent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, but yeah.
But I also wanted to contribute to the conversation that you lot are having still as well.
Go ahead.
So what's all of your opinions on, and this touches on on all of the people that have spoken already, including Brother Kale as well. So what to do, or what is the line or the approach that Black nationalists, Pan-Africanists have taken on unsynchronized family members, and in terms of family members that may be of a different faith, maybe move in a particular way that is that the Pan-Africanists would view as damaging. For example, the maternal uncle. If the maternal uncle is a drug dealer, yeah, and shoot up the place, yeah, are we to maintain that order? You know, like how do we approach, as Kale says, unsynchronized family members?
You're asking some deep question right now. Yeah, it's an interesting one. And Angela and Coffee may soon come to you after we deal with Bunya heavyweight question, and anybody who wants to chime in. Bro, there's no simple answer to that except for the community building. Yeah, the only way to deal with unsynchronized uncle is the same way how you deal with any unsynchronized community member in general. I guess as an individual family member, you might have some more deeper responsibility, but I don't know how we deal with unsynchronized uncle outside of unsynchronized community in general. Uncle doesn't exist outside of the dynamics of the community as a whole. So if we're talking about, it should be clear that the existence of drugs in our community is a reflection of the economic depression of our community, as well as the lack of social organization within the community, as well as deliberate influx of said, as in drugs, into the community by the government itself. Yeah, and that's not a question, that's proven. Yeah, and so we have to be dealing with it on all of those levels. In my humble opinion, on an individual basis, I feel like families have to structure themselves to hold family members to account, and that might look different for different members of family. At the same time, when young men are young men, I find it difficult, for example, to have a policy of ousting young men from family structures for engaging in behavior. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, man.
Because when that happens, it suggests that there's a breakdown already. I don't know how you resolve that by, just simply exacerbating it. I think that there are, at least as far as the UK is concerned, there are community resources that we need to take more advantage of. For example, Manhood Academy, for boys or global. For example, West Side Young Leaders Academy, yeah, or East Side Young Leaders Academy, yeah. That, for example, the Social Solutions Institute headed by Twilight Bay, yeah. These are brothers, mainly brothers, who have a track record of working in our community on these issues, yeah, taking man off the roads, right? For example, you know, forming truces, yeah, between warring factions of our community when they're on different estates, and those kinds of. I don't know of any viable answers outside of that context. If we're talking on the broader level of destructive behavior, you know, and it's going to take work for it to develop to the level that we need it to solve the problems on a macro scale, and not the macro scale that is at the moment, you know. So I'm sorry I can't get no hot sexy answer to your question. Yeah, it's just work. It's just work. You know what I'm saying? You know. But anybody who wants to contribute to that question can do. But keep it short, because I want to bring in Angelo and Coffee before we have to wrap up.
Yeah, I always kind of find it maybe a little annoying, and that's a personal thing, when like people play devil's advocate for, well, what if Africans do this negative thing, right? And I think it is because it usually arises in moments when we are either hearkening back to our traditions or attempting to create new traditions where we can exist communally with each other, right?
Yeah,
and so, though I don't mean in any way to diminish the actual very valuable question that the brother Bunia just asked, it fails to presume, at least how I perceive it is as failing to presume that the very nature of our organizing our traditional familial structures, we don't necessarily be correct for the, what did he call it, the unsynchronized uncle. Be correct for the unsynchronized uncle from rearing now, boy. I don't know. My understanding is that unless something goes drastically wrong within the society or something very traumatic happens to that person in particular, you don't generally have the uprisings of these unsynchronized uncles, aunties, whatever, in the communities if we are living like that, you know.
I think I get what you're saying. Go ahead, Bunya, if you want to.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, it was a good question that that brother Buddha mentioned, right?
Bunya.
Bunya, sorry. Oh, was it Bunya? Sorry. I'm gonna codify it as much as possible. What I remember, brother MA, is that when it comes to the drug dealers in Birmingham and that, right, is that half of the time that money will go on to the communities. The gangs that I grew up in is that they've actually got like a lot of shops, etc. From what they've done. You know what I mean? I understand our relatives, etc. So I'm going to be very careful, but they're actually doing good work from it, because we do know that a lot of the gangs, the non-Africans, they're drug dealing, they used to provide for the community, etc., right? So another thing as well is that what I do remember growing up, that, and even in my time in my 20s, that there were certain people in the community that would do pedophilia. So what would happen to them is that you wouldn't see them again, and at the same time their family members were taken care of. So there was times where some of our cousins. Second, bro, what was that?
Go ahead. Sorry, you just taking it somewhere else I wasn't even considering. But yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Yeah. It's a serious issue. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, it's just something that used to happen, and solutions, but when it comes to the young ones, brother MA, is that what I do remember is with some of my young relatives and whilst in the community, is that they would have to leave the area and they'll go to another place where they'll be supervised. You know what I mean? Like, you go to school, you come home at that time, there'll be watch, etc. I know it sounds very kind of like weird and strange.
You're right, my brother. You're completely right.
That is what my family members and in Birmingham, I know in London, that's what used to happen. So there are solutions and true fact stories, man. But big up to the question.
No, it's an excellent intervention, and I think that when we get to certain levels of organization as well, and we're on a community level, there'll be less of a need, or people will feel less of a need to engage in activities that are actually just destroying the community, such as the drugs and things. But we'll be in a position to isolate them as well. Yeah, so I've heard of this as well. This is even happened in places like LA, whereby when the community gets to a certain level, they're organizing. You can only operate over there, and if you step out of there, it's problems for you. Yeah, so there's stages. All right, before we can completely eliminate something, there's stages that we're gonna have to go through. And when we've got a certain level of power as people that have a certain kind of mindset, then we're gonna be able to dictate what moves and what doesn't in our community. To a certain degree. You know what I'm saying?
There's a not necessarily a parallel experience in Trinbago, but there's an organization in Trinbago named the Jamaat al-Muslimin. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but
I got an uncle, Uncle Dan Juma. I believe.
Sure.
Yeah. So he mentioned it. Yeah.
Yeah. Big up to him.
So well, first things first, bring up Uncle Dan Juma for sure. Well, for those who haven't seen, there is a Vice documentary on the organization and the person who I'm about to speak about. I'll share the link in the chat in a little bit, right?
Yeah.
I have it on potentially unreliable information. I never verified it for myself, that they police their communities in some of the same ways that I think his brother Kiel may have just been speaking, was describing. Where, listen, brother, you go and I don't know if they necessarily care if you do anything to the infidels or whatever, right? But you pull up in their community and you teach something from a Muslim, they are kidnapping you and they're going to chop off your hand. And now you have to just go and live in Trinidad without a hand, right? If you put your hands on a Muslima, you understand? Either that is not and it's not your wife, and it's not your family or anything like that. They will never see you again. Nobody will ever see you again. You dig? So I'm saying, not that I necessarily. Well, I'm not a Muslim and I'm not a member of the Jamaat, so I'm not a supporter of the Jamaat al-Muslimin. But I mean it to say that they are definitely, just compounding on the brother's part, there are definitely solutions that can be employed against our deviant members of the community.
100%. Give thanks for that, my brothers, for contributing to that discussion there. I want to respect the thing and bring in Brother Angelo at this point.
Greetings, everybody.
Greetings, Brother Angelo. I mentioned you earlier, and just to say, give thanks once again for what you brought to the discussion last week. Truly appreciative of.
Yeah, no problem, my brother. I don't plan to be doing a lot of talking this evening. I'm battling a little flu here. White man get me sick. So I just recovering here. But as usual, I like the discussion. There was something you all were talking about when I had just come on. Something to do with pre-colonial family structures.
Yes, sir.
And I just wanted to add something to that because I remember around 2016 or 2017, imagine these colonizer scientists now discovering, and I'm using discovery in quotation marks, they're now discovering that grandparents are beneficial for a child's upbringing. And how long we know that? Why is it that every culture outside of Europe understands these things, except them, and when they finally catch on to the rest of the world, is a discovery for them? The media,
got you, King. Got you.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna end there. It's funny to me how, and the interesting part is how before Western empires, before that whole age of imperialism, the Europeans to an extent understood these things when they came from pagan societies.
Yeah.
So it's like they're reconnecting with their ancestral past and they don't even know it.
Don't even know it. That's a serious thing. You know, I see, I see. You know, it's interesting. You know how much of even my parents' generation were raised by their grandmothers more than their mother and their father. Like them grew up with them grandmother and them grandfather. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a serious thing.
Serious thing, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, my father raised by him grandmother. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? You know, like primary was grandmother. You know what I'm saying? That's the
And that's
primary.
a regular thing.
Regular thing that, you know what I'm saying? Regular thing that, yeah. And you know what's interesting now? When you study indigenous Bakongo, sorry, family structure and child rearing structure is a similar thing. Yeah, elders and well, there's a book called Kindezi by Baba Kimbo and then the Kebo Sekifukiya, and he breaks this down. Yeah, in terms of family structure and how all of the community is brought into the child rearing process. But you know, a significant one of the grandparents have a significant role to play, or elders in general, because the parents are at a productivity age, yeah. So their time is freed up so that they can go work land or you know whatever else it is, and the children spend a lot of time with the elders, yeah, because it helps to keep the elders them young and they can you know pass on their knowledge and their you know their wisdom to the youth them, you know. It's yeah man, that's some serious thing, you know. So give thanks for that, Angela. Anything else you wanted to say?
No, not at the moment, brother. Maybe next time.
Give Tats King coffee.
No. You can't let Angelo leave just anyway. Now,
Oh,
when
all right.
you
No,
Yeah, man. Yeah,
I'm
make
not,
him.
I'm
No,
not
What you have
sorry.
to say?
I'm still in the discussion. I just don't plan to talk plenty.
Right now, no, but I am remembering that you did say that you wanted to give him an alley set him in one tip. So let me if Coffee's willing to give away, I'll that's
Yeah,
fine.
man. Yeah,
Yeah,
man. No
all right,
problem.
cool. So
okay.
yeah, got you.
I can't pretend I expected that from Brother Coffee, but I give thanks the same way, you know.
Good time.
So I kind of wanted to. This is something that's been on my mind for about 2 months now since I watched a live that I think both you and Smash were on somehow, and it's this a few things at once, right? Number one, the world, especially the so-called Western world, is extremely Americocentric, right? In that, or no, the Black Western world, maybe I should say that, is very Americocentric, and so our number one, our image of ourselves, diasporic Africans, our image of ourselves is very often either sorry, the image that we have in public is generally colored by the image of the so-called black man in the media and the image of the so-called African in the media. And I'm tying the propaganda that the global propaganda that America puts on the world to make the cultural hegemony that America has, to make them seem like, you know, the light of the world, whatnot, is the reason that diasporic Africans and continental Africans look towards North America, to the American Atlantic Africans, for not necessarily leadership, but for the mass movement and for the resources for the Pan-African movements that we're trying to do. Because it is my understanding, and the reason I'm giving this to Andrew is because I hope he will clarify, correct me if I'm wrong or not. My understanding that the United States of America is the most powerful and entrenched empire in the world at the moment. And American Atlantic Africans living within the center of that empire have the greatest access to resources and to the tools of propaganda than any other African anywhere on the world. And so that, to me, like, I see a lot of these ADOS and FBA talking points kind of diminishing the necessity of Americans or American Atlantic Africans to look east or to look south at other diasporic Africans, right? And I suspect it is, as I said, their own American elitism being coupled with not having to experience what life is like for an African outside of America. and therefore not recognizing that they are most perfectly placed to initiate global change, which is why a lot of our leaders go there anyway, from the continent and from the diaspora. So I was just wondering if Angela might be able to give us a bigger, I know you don't have your voice, but a more in-depth exploration of the American empire and the place of um, American Atlantic Africans in the global Pan-Africanist movement.
Yeah, no problem. I'll be brief because I don't have all the information on hand. But when this particular topic comes up, it's an area of fascination for me as an artist, because as I was telling Seth in chat earlier, I believe that Hollywood and the cinema industry plays a very big role in pushing the propaganda of America being the good guys. Does anyone here know of a film called Birth of a Nation?
Yes, sir.
That is
Yeah.
a real important film because it basically set the groundwork for all of Hollywood's productions. They may not be as overtly racist as it was before, but the story is the same. People of color are dangerous to America, and it is up to them, the good guys, to save America from the rest of the world. And every single war film, every single TV show that features American cops or American police, you know what does blow my mind? The stark reality between American police and how they actually operate, and all the propaganda that you see on Netflix and cable TV. We don't like American police, but we love to watch CSI and we love to watch Criminal Minds. I mean, I'm not even ashamed to say it. When I was little,
I tell you better than that. We love to watch the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
yeah. Hey, you know, Shaka, you mentioned that, and recently I read an article that stated there are former members of the CIA who are advisors to those films.
Not just advisors, funders. Yeah, funders.
Wow. So they're funding these things too.
And MI6. Yeah.
Yeah.
In particular, Iron Man. Yeah. The American military and the British military and intelligence agencies added funding to those films.
CIA also finance, CIA and MI6 also finance cultural Marxism, like the Frankfurt School in America and cultural studies in Britain. So I mean, them reach is not, they can't just paint one them as one ideological movement.
Hold on, brother. You just said that cultural Marxism is the reason why people think America is a good guy.
No, I'm saying the Frankfurt School in the 1940s and 30s. Sorry, the 1940s and 50s. People like Herbert Marcuse and them, all of them used to work for the intelligence, right? Because the idea of centralized power is what they shared with the deep state at that time. And even today, a lot of the intellectuals, even today, a lot of the leftist intellectuals, them work hand in hand with the deep state, the Black Lives Matter people, the critical race
brother,
theory
you sound
people.
like a crazy conspiracy theorist right now when you start talking about deep state.
No, you can look it up. Herbert Marcuse and the CIA, right? Adorno, all the Frankfurt School people. Remember, Herbert Marcuse was the mentor for Angela Davis, right? And that whole
I feel like man's right.
60s.
Go on, sorry.
The rich elites used to fet and fund the Black Panthers. I mean, look it up. It's called a radical cheek, where the elites and the communists work hand in hand. Remember that Trotsky and the Rothschild was bridging, you know. I remember the Wall Street banks. Remember the Wall Street banks did send money to finance the Bolsheviks in 1917. I mean, this thing run deep. You know what I mean? Marxism was never really a peasant proletarian movement. You know, Marx and him, Rich Virgin, Engels, you know, it was always
well funded, man.
Yeah.
But
Shaka, could I just Could I just share my screen real quick while Brother Coffee's
No,
talking?
yeah, go ahead. But I'm not even sure if Angela was finished though. So that's what I'm. So yeah, Angela, was you finished?
I was almost done.
Okay, go ahead, Ro. Go ahead.
Yeah. So we know about the involvement of the CIA and the colonizer intelligence services in movies, but I read an article some months ago. I will do my utmost best to locate it because that is important information nonetheless. And they were talking about how even literature, the literary works, modern literature coming out of America was more or less shaped by the CIA. They spent an incredible amount of time and resources into studying how to force a cultural shift through the arts. Now, during the 60s and the 70s in America, that was the height of American folk music, right? People like Bob Dylan and Joan Baez. And that American folk music basically kind of captured the lives of working class, well, mostly white working class America, a lot of whom were sympathetic to the civil rights struggle. Now, the CIA noted that folk music and all of the great American poets and great American writers, the common thing that they all had in their works was community, right? Um, Stories like Huckleberry Finn, Huckleberry's background growing up in rural America. You know, there's a very famous American writer too, Henry David Thoreau, who was writing about nature and that kind of thing. Basically what the CIA did was force that shift away from community, away from communal values, and into the individual experience. So, in other words, a community experience became an individual memory. The memory of that individual was worth more than the collective experience of the village as a whole. I'm talking about through stories, that is. And these were the kind of narratives being pushed. This lone hero who was usually male and straight coming to save the world and that kind of thing. So it's not just movies, but you also see it in the literary works as well, how they basically engineered us to think more individually and less communally.
Hold on, but that's long before CIA. Remember, the whole Americanism, city on the hill, liberalism was about the rugged individual, and it was a radical shift from the monarchical structures or the religious structures where the religious community or the state would impose its will on the individual, where liberalism said, no, you as an individual should have the right to choose which community you should be a part of. You know what I mean? That was long before the CIA. The CIA is what, post World War II.
I think
maybe they use.
So huh? Go on.
No, maybe they use American individualism during the Cold War to counter as an ideological counter to communism, which would make sense. But the goal of the deep state and the CIA wasn't individualism. It was collectivism, totalitarianism. It was the growth of the military industrial complex, the state. You understand? So yes, they might. Go
on.
Yeah, they might fund the impressionism and the individualism, but they also finance the other side, the Marxist, the Marcuse, the Adorno, the cultural studies. I mean, it's not an accident that a lot of these Ivy League institutions, a lot of them have Marxists as professors.
And if you lose a tooth and you put it on your pillow, the tooth fairy would leave money for you.
But it's not an accident that.
I think this history is very complex. Yeah, it's more complicated than we're gonna have time to go through.
Yeah.
When just make statements like that, because these are people. One, you have to. Okay, first and foremost, let me say this. In relation to what Angela was saying, there's a good documentary series called The Century of the Self. Yeah.
I literally just watched that the other day. Everybody should watch that. Yeah,
man. Big documentary. That's a big documentary, man. Big.
It's very, very important viewing. Yeah. And it talks about the extent to which psychologists, psychological frameworks were used through marketing and the what's it called, the market economy, yeah, to not just get people to buy products but associate their sense of self, yes, with the purchasing of products, yeah, and to disaggregate the identity, yes, from one that was concerned with family and community to one that was concerned with rugged individualism and self-centeredness, yeah. And
Well,
they go with,
the conservatives meant that.
allow me if I don't know, give thanks. Yeah, right. So yeah, so how that process that was gone through. This is not no big, anti-capitalist, documentary. I know some history, yeah, one of my random, yeah, in terms of the how psychology was used in those dynamics. And I'm forgetting the name of. I don't know why I'm forgetting the name of one particular individual whose strategies were particularly well employed.
Bernays, Edward Bernays.
Say again?
Edward Bernays.
Edward Bernays, yeah.
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 So yeah, that's one significant thing. And another book, yeah, but called The Science of Coercion by Christopher Simpson. Yeah. And the subtitle is Communication Research and Psychological Warfare, 1945 to 1960. Speaks about the extent to which the US military and its national security agencies invested in media following the conclusion in particular of mass European War II, yeah, misnomed World War II. And it's related to the science of the self because they invested heavily in particular in psychology that was later on used, yeah, in advertising. So a lot of the advertising techniques that are used commonly today are the result of research that was developed for US military interests. Yeah, literally.
Yeah, Freud's was it Freud's not daughter? I think it was niece.
Yeah,
or something like that.
Yeah. Yep, going at them something there. Yeah, so I just wanted to point those two things out for brothers and sisters who wanted to view and get deeper into what was being said. So,
like I said, the conservatives met that same point when them say the creation of the welfare state was to destroy the family and to fragment the community. You know what I mean? The whole idea that individualism has gone too far and it lead to wokeism and the other kind of isms that we can't really talk about because this is YouTube. I mean, that's a conservative argument also. And that's let me ask
you this, Coffee. Let me ask you this here. What do you make of the fact that there was significant American investment in Nazi Germany before mass European War II?
Oh. Well, it's the same thing.
But does that make the American supporters of Nazism though? Does that mean that they funded Nazism?
Yeah. Well, remember when they did ask Hitler what is Nazism, and him said, "What you guys doing with the New Deal?" In other words, he was drawing a parallel between the New Deal and what he was doing. So, in other words, the New Deal was a radical departure from the tradition of capitalism and laissez-faire economics to a more totalitarian or government-centered approach to development. So the it's not surprising.
Let him finish.
It's not surprising that in the 30s they would have deals with Nazi Germany. They would have deals with Italian fascism. They also had deals with Bolshevik Russia, right? A lot of the prominent.
I'm not denying that. What I was asking you is because you're suggesting that they funded the development of Soviet Russia and Marxist states, right? This is what I'm saying. So I'm not disagreeing with the fact that they did business. Yeah.
What I'm saying is that totalitarians will find brotherhood with fellow totalitarians. You understand? So FDR, who was a totalitarian, you would find brotherhood with what was going on in Germany, what was going on in Russia, what was going on in Italy. All these states in the 1930s were moving far away from liberalism, far away from the individual and individual rights and property rights to centralization of power in the state. FDR, Adolf Hitler, Benito Mussolini, and Stalin. That's what all these
How can you equivocate the USSR with Nazi Germany when the USSR defeated Nazi Germany in
they are both
the Second Mass European War?
totalitarians. Because
Yeah,
they're
but
both
what you just said,
regimes.
brother, what you just said was that they will find, but actually I don't want to misquote you, but basically that they would find common cause. Totalitarian regimes will find common cause, but they were literally against one another in the biggest war that ever occurred in Europe.
Because gangs fight all the time. That's not surprising. Gangs fight all the time, but the Crips and Bloods, they are too evil, but they fight each other. You understand? So that's not surprising.
Okay, but the Crips and the Bloods don't have common cause with each other, do they?
No. Well, they have common cause in terror, in terrorizing
Can I ask a
people.
question though? Because you're confining American militarism to certain presidents. When has America not been that kind of a militarist?
I was about to ask that same question.
It doesn't matter who the president is. It's Republican or Democrat. I just saw them go on. So
but
who's more liberal? Your definition
to compare
to them go on. So who was
there's a difference. Hold on, you asked me now.
I'm not finished. You mentioned FDR. Before him, you had Coolidge and what the next one name? We can't remember the one.
Yeah, Grover Cleveland. You have Andrew Jackson. You have Thomas Jefferson. In other words, the state was much, much smaller in the economy before Woodrow Wilson and before.
What does that have to do with? No, but we're talking about on the level of militarism, though, and militarization, right? So what does this have? What does your line of argument right now have to do with them and their military power? They're the same military power, regardless of who the president is. Them go on the same.
Is you asked me the question, so I was just responding. I'm not saying
you haven't asked me. I'm asking you because you're telling me about small government at the moment. I'm asking you, regardless of who the president is, what does that have to do with how they behave, how America behaves, or how Britain behaves as a military power? How does who the president is change the military behavior of America or Britain or any of them?
I wasn't saying it changed the military behavior. I was just the Trinidadian asked, how can I equate Russia and Nazi Germany?
Yeah.
Right? And I'm saying that they're all the same in terms of how they view power and the state. Yeah. And the sameness of views will result in different outcomes, different economic outcomes, because the Soviet Russia economically was a failure. FDR's New Deal was a failure. Fascism is also an economic failure. You understand? So it don't just have implications for militarism, but also have implications for people's economic well-being. It was a departure. I'm not arguing that it's a military departure. I'm saying that in terms of economics, it was a departure in America under FDR. The kind of economic program that was a departure.
But wasn't the New Deal something that saved America from a depression? Like you're saying that the New Deal failed.
Of course it was, but that's not the point.
That's not true. That's not true.
But it's not true. You know, see,
it prolonged the depression.
I'm going to get into the Mount Pelerin Society, who have invested a whole heap of.
So you're changing the subject.
No, I'm really not, because I don't want to go through the weeds on this, especially at 1 minute to 10 in the evening on gotkushTV. The point is this, yeah. The point
the subject.
Right, yeah. The point is we could do it another day. But today is not the day. The point that is because when we are going now, whether I'm agreeing with Setem Imhotep's assessment, by the way, and anybody who has studied these things will know that not just America, but the entirety of Europe adopted more stronger welfare systems because they couldn't sustain themselves after the war. Yeah, the
That's
nation,
not true.
corporations,
That's right.
right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That was the whole vibration. Yeah. And so that
The welfare state is in trouble now.
Wait, what has happened is that the neoliberal argumentation
Oh
has
boy, here we go.
for a couple generations now to undo that general understanding. Yeah, even the neoliberal.
So hold on there. They are neoliberal and the Institute of Welfare State. That don't make no sense. Hold on there, man. You contradict
No, he
yourself.
didn't say. He said that they would.
That's not what I said.
So on there. When did they have the welfare state?
Sorry. Again, I'm not gonna.
No, man, your chronology mixed up, man.
Even the godfather, of the neoliberal movement, Mr. Hayek, him and Keynes, the person who them credit with putting together the economics of the post World War II, mass European War II, New Deal, and
that's wrong. That's wrong again. Hayek never have anything to do with that.
I didn't say he did.
It's Keynes.
I just said that. I literally just said.
No,
Keynes.
You mentioned Hayek. What Hayek got to do with
You're not listening. Calm down, and you'll understand. Yeah. So you got Hayek on the one end and Keynes on the other end. Keynes is the man who is responsible for the economic brainchild, between post-mass European war to European economic development, all right, or let's say stability,
Yep.
And then you have Hayek on the other hand, who is the godfather of neoliberalism, okay?
And here you come now with even Hayek.
Keynes, and Hayek, had a whole heap of debates, but they were brethren, they were good friends, all right. And even Hayek during that
supported
period,
the welfare state.
I wouldn't say not necessarily 100%, but he gave way and supported what Keynes was dealing with. Even in whatever disagreements they had, there was unity, what's it called?
That's not true. That's not true. Hayek's
on these issues, so nobody was stating these things at the time, right? And everybody understood that the free market economics that them did want for Putin, it was the environment in Europe was not conducive to that at the time. The people that were coming back from war, and them they needed jobs, and families had to be put back together. Man, them that women were now in the workplace.
We need a whole program for this, but you're absolutely wrong. You're absolutely wrong.
If you say
Keynesianism did not rescue the Marshall Plan, did not rescue Europe. It's only until the German brother him did remove the price controls of the Nazi regime that the Americans did keep in place. After him they remove the price controls and institute market policies, that's when the economy start to pick up.
So that again, this is a well-developed neoliberal talking point, right? And
again, you're using strawman. You don't attack what I say. You just use some strawman.
It's a fact. It's a fact.
Ad hominem.
But you haven't substantiated what you said either. You just made a statement, right? So
like I said,
it's making
another program. But you're wrong.
It's making another statement. The point I'm making, however, is simply that none of this it changes the behavior of these nations in relation to being imperialist powers. The difference between America or Britain or France as an imperialist power is not dependent upon whether they have a welfare state or a complete free market economy, which they've never had. They've never had a complete free market economy.
America cannot.
Whether Keynes was running things in the 1930s or 40s or 50s, or Hayek was running things, Britain was a colonizer, trying to hold on to colonial possessions until they realized it couldn't hold on no more. America was the attempted and the intentional neo-colonizer. And all of this axis of Western Europe was operating on those levels there. So the difference, these are important things to discuss. But when we're talking about the original question that put us on this train was in relation to what Setem Imhotep asked Angelo in terms of American propaganda, especially as it relates to Africans in America, and the relationship between Africans in America and towards Africans in the other parts of the Atlantic diaspora, there is nothing to be said here, about some mystical, benefit that we get when Hayek is dominating the scene versus when Keynes is dominating the scene.
You like argue with yourself, but hold on now.
Hold on. That 1 second. That is the question that we were addressing, and Angelo mentioned some things in relation to the propaganda that was put in place.
Let me address that.
I will, and we're going to close soon, yeah. But the propaganda that was put in place, yeah, and how that played out. 1 second, how that played out in terms of America, always putting itself in the position of the savior of the world, yeah. And he mentioned propaganda in that context. And so when we're dealing with that reality, regardless of, because I'm not one of them people, I don't see Keynesianism as a this is not my fight, yeah. I'm not, but I'm trying to get us back on to answer the question that was being asked, yeah, in relation to the propaganda that America puts out there about itself and how that affects Africans' impression of ourselves and each other as a people.
That including the Frankfurt School.
And I'm saying that, and America wasn't anyway.
Really? The Frankfurt School will influence Angela Davis and the Black Panther. Them.
The fact of the matter is that
you ramble too much. All right, the reason why it's different.
Hold on. Sorry. When we're talking about Africans, we have always been in a stronger position relative to our capacity to associate and identify with the fight of Africans in other parts of the world. And we've always done this, yeah? So the brethren mentioned Birth of a Nation. That film was released in 1915. As he said, it was the film that got Hollywood its big start. Yeah, it was the first film that was ever, broadcast in the White House.
We know the history.
Hold on.
I don't know this. I listening, right? Give thanks.
It's also the same year.
So you're a big Afrocentric.
Hold on. It's also the year that America invaded and occupied Haiti. Yes. Right. For until 1934, them leave there. Africans in America, yeah, at least those who were actively organizing, organized themselves to challenge, in various different ways, the American occupation of Haiti. Yeah. Similar thing happened in the 1960s where America invaded Congo in support of Shombe and Mobutu them. Africans, even the moderate integrationists, right, the government has said this way I do right and wrong, come out of Congo. Yeah. And so there is a distinct effort on behalf of the American establishment, the European establishment in general, to destroy the African solidarity that we feel with our brothers and sisters in other parts of the world and have us wrapped up in some sense of American or British patriotism. And
this a filibuster.
Whatever political or economic agenda best suits the European project. Yeah. And so
so the reason
democracy comes into that, neoliberalism comes into that, and all of them something they're coming on that.
So the reason why Keynes and Hayek matter is because economic policy matter, and because economic policies can be the difference. Like I said last week between starvation and productivity, Garvey understood this. This is why Garvey stayed in America, because he realized that you have more resources in America. Why? Because of the economic system that they have. So different economic systems to consider are very, very important. During Garvey's time, most Black people were poor. today, most black people are not poor. And even the so-called poor in America are wealthier than the middle class in the third world. So that's a testament to a superior productive system that can lift all boats. Not all
My
of them are
guy,
the same.
United States
Yo,
capital is
yo, you see me, I say, you make him ramble on. You see me, I say, you.
Make him finish.
Yo, that man saying, you make the man anyway. So you can't just be flippant and just dismiss difference between Keynes and Hayek. You understand? As I said before, economics is important. Garvey understood economics is important as a springboard for what you do. All of what you guys talking about, needing resources for extra, to deal with the communities in whether Trinidad or Britain or America in terms of the gang warfare and the breakdown in family and community. In Jamaica, it's the same thing, and what that attests to the failure of the state. You understand? So black people not going to have to be looking for extra judicial or institutions outside the state to police their own communities, even though they pay taxes so that the government who's supposed to police their community. The whole idea of government is to protect property and life. And if the government can't do that, and you have to look for other institutions to do that, that means the government failed, policy fails. So like me say, policy is very important. It's not the be all and end all. But you can't just flip on and dismiss it and say, Keynes and Hayek are the same, because they're not the same.
So yeah, the statement wasn't made that Keynes and Hayek are the same. The statement was made that regardless of whose economic policies were dominating the scene, America and Britain as imperialists remain the same. As imperialists, they remain the same. And so we can give the example.
The material conditions of black people aren't the same, though.
Yes, they were. There was
That's not true.
But
that is not true.
Excuse me. We're talking about up until the 1960s, yeah, where Jim Crow was still the reality for Africans in America. We're talking about a situation in which from the early 1900s come right through, you had companies like the United Fruit Company, now known as Chiquita, who were actively destroying economies and trying to commandeer industry and agriculture in throughout the Caribbean. One of the reasons why the economic fortunes of America is significantly different to the rest of the Americas is because of the economic warfare that the United States of America has waged against the rest of the Americas. Yeah.
Why most black people in America aren't poor today?
Sorry, it's nothing to do with superior economic policies of one.
Why most black people in America aren't poor today?
One second. Nothing to do with that. Yeah, the state in the Caribbean, particularly the Black Caribbean, is a non-entity. It's non-existent because the state is a neo-colonial entity. Yeah, so the state does not define economic policy for itself. The state.
So hold on. Why you have such different outcomes?
Sorry. The state.
Jamaica, Bahamas, Turks, Haiti, Dominica, Barbados, Trinidad.
Excuse me. Thank you very much. The state, yeah, in places like Jamaica, places like Trinidad, and so on and so forth, is not an entity that autonomously defines and institutes economic policy to a significant degree. First and foremost, under the period that you're talking about, how can
no state in a vacuum determines policy?
Excuse me. Thank you. First and foremost, when we're talking to the areas under discussion at the moment, which is like the 1930s, 40s, and 50s, we in the Caribbean were colonized nations, literally speaking. Yeah, Britain, yeah, and France.
And you miss what I say. Again, you miss what I say. I'm not denying that. I'm saying that.
One second. So our economic depressions and poverty had nothing to do with the failure of the Jamaican state or the Trinidadian state or anything like that. It was
really?
It was to do with colonization. Yeah.
So hold on. Why the Trini brethren won't go in politics?
Sorry, excuse me. Thank you.
If the state not done for doing it, mix up on yourself, man.
Excuse me. Thank you very much. And then when we become independent nations, one, we're part of organizations for the most part called the Commonwealth, and two, America extends its influence even more. Brothers and sisters, study the machinations, of the United Fruit Company in the Caribbean, and where them did I go on with in the interest
Why are there
of the
such
American state, and ask yourself, how is it that the benefits of labor in the Caribbean and throughout the Americas the profits from that labor end up in America? And ask me and tell me that from once you study that is not the reason why America has a higher standard of living over
bananas because of bananas. Are you serious? America is wealthy because of bananas.
Cause that made it say.
Give me a break. So are you saying that the Anglophone? Are you?
Yeah, and the banana them, yes.
Yeah, United Fruit Company.
Yes.
Yeah.
So and the banana them America, and that did say a while ago. Yeah.
So the Anglophone Caribbean is, in terms of wealth, is the same as it was in the 1930s. Black Americans today are the same in terms of wealth as they were in 1930s.
I noticed that you're not addressing the point. The point was about our relationship to each other as Africans throughout the region, and how the American and the European, the Western state in particular, and its institutions seek to propagandize against those things. And I'm just simply demonstrating how that happened. The United Fruit Company in the Caribbean, one of its aims explicitly on record was to destroy the Garvey movement. Because the Garvey movement was organizing people politically and economically in ways that were opposed to the interest of the American government and its corporations that it sent out to do its bidding. That's the reality.
I don't know why.
No way you understand the politics and the economics of the region, the poverty that exists in Haiti and Jamaica and Barbados and Trinidad and so on and so forth without understanding that dynamic. There's no way you understand that without
and also there's no way.
For example, that America, when they invaded Haiti and occupied it for nearly 20 years, stole millions worth in gold, from the nation, which they still have in their possession today.
Okay, so if hoarding gold made nations wealthy and rich, Spain and Portugal would be way much richer than Britain and America. All right, so that's an economic policy. The difference in
not hoarding gold. It's theft.
If what?
The issue is anyway.
Yes, it's theft. But you are making a point.
When you talk about red herring, that was an absolute red herring, right there. So.
No, you're saying the reason America is rich is because she thief gold. Yes.
No, that's not what I said. But since you're on that point, when
America is rich because she thief gold, yes or no?
Since you're on that point, when did America come off the gold standard?
It came off the gold standard officially under Nixon.
In the 1970s, right?
Yeah, it did so.
Okay.
Before.
So right now we're talking about the 19 teens into the 1930s.
Brethren.
Okay.
The gold hoarding, it don't matter if it's the 30s or the 70s. Hoarding gold does not make you rich. That's Americanist policy.
It's not what I said, but okay.
So what's the point you're making about stealing the gold? Of course, then thief.
Because gold is worthless.
That's news flash. What?
Worthless. Gold is worthless. Yeah, I get the point. Gold is worthless. It has no
gold is worthless. Gold is worthless if you don't have any economy.
Bear in mind, however, America also destroyed the agricultural industry in Haiti.
That's not true. They did that before. The Haitians did that before.
Destroyed it to the extent that whereas Haiti was able to grow sufficient food to feed itself for a significant.
That's not true again. That's not true.
Or to this day, as a result of what America did during that time,
the warfare, Haiti and the land policies.
Excuse me. Haiti's agriculture industry has never been able to recover, and to this day, it's still importing food from America and other places.
Haiti's agriculture industry was
I
stunted
know why.
long before 1915.
No. It was attacked long before 1915. I agree, by France and by America and by Britain,
and by the internal policies and by Pétain and Dessalines.
We never say it started in 1915. You know, we never said that. Yeah, but again, we don't want to actually deal with the criminal behavior, of the colonizer.
I acknowledge the colonizer's criminal behavior, but you don't want to acknowledge the autonomy of black people. You just think that.
Sorry,
you just think that black people don't have any agency.
Autonomy? No, yes, we do. We have agency when we fight against the colonizer. Yeah. Sorry,
all right, give me some of the policies. Give me some of the policies.
Hold on a second, right? What African country, or rather what country populated by Africans, has a military industrial complex to enforce its geopolitical aims across the world? Which country has that?
They don't have it because they don't have an economic complex. They don't have. They have messed up economies. So of course, they're not
so every single country except maybe Ethiopia on the African continent was colonized and was created by the hands of these European capitalists, right? Or am I wrong about that too?
Yes, you're wrong, because they weren't capitalists.
Because when they're doing wrong, they're not capitalists. But but they're capitalists when it's Reagan and
everything
Thatcher.
I go good.
Like capitalist with FDR.
I want to ask Kofi a question. What is the point of being involved in Pan-Africanism if the white man doesn't have it figured out already? Because
don't ask me that, ask them, because them is Shaka and the brethren talking as if black people now an agency say everything go back to United Food Company and America thief in the goal.
No, this is a good point. This is a good point, right? This is a good point. Yeah. So this is another one of these talking points. You know, you find the people that
might as well go back to Carthage and Hannibal and what the Romans did to Carthage and something there.
The anti-CRT people, they do this here. So when you begin to actually talk about the criminality of America as an imperialist nation and the impact that has, the America as a military industrial complex and the impact that has.
Did I deny that?
Sorry, I didn't say you did. Listen to what I'm saying. They begin to talk about lack of agency. I'm a Garveyite. Yeah, the people in Haiti when America invaded in the 19 teens fought against the Americans. That's agency. Yes, that's agency.
All right, let me ask you.
Sorry, all on there. Give thanks. All right. The people them, when we fought against the United Fruit Company. Yes, when the United Fruit Company was going through the Caribbean trying to mash up the indigenous economies of the Caribbean, sorry, agricultural industries of the Caribbean. The people that fought against
Chile, Costa Rica, prosper.
One second. The people them fought against the America. That's agency. When America did go in the Congo, the people then fight against America. That's agency. So no, we're not saying that we have no agency. We're saying
all right. So do you think
we're saying that our agency is in our capacity not to adopt or align ourselves with political economic interests of Western Europe, but to organize ourselves according to our own interests and fight accordingly.
Are there any policies pre-1915 in Haiti that you would say that had negative consequences on the economy?
Again, my friend, they were paying France for a century for reparations for enslavement. What are you talking about, my guy?
All right. Let me explain to you. Let me explain to you what I'm talking about.
Let me answer the question. I'm going to go as far as to say African civilizations from as far back as we can remember till today have made mistakes economically and politically.
All right, tell me them.
One second.
With Haiti.
We have done things that have forwarded our progress, and we have done things that have contributed to our regression.
No matter
The problem is, however, it's not deflection. It's not deflection. I'm sure.
Because I asked you specifically about Haiti.
I am sure. I am 100% sure. Yeah, and there are things that I could probably identify that Haiti, after liberating itself from hundreds of years of enslavement, did run. I'm sure they made mistakes. Just like I'm sure America, after the American Revolution, made mistakes in terms of how it developed it. So I'm 100%
sure. Tell me them.
I'm sure that Britain, make sure say India after colonization they made two mistakes too. I'm sure about these things. The question then becomes now, and this is what people that put forward these arguments like to do, is they like to put forward mistakes or wrong steps that we make in the governance of ourselves as a justification for ignoring the criminality that has been heaped upon us.
Why you keep doing that?
Right? Hold on.
Who doing that?
Well, that's exactly what you're doing, right? So when we talk about, we could take it for granted. We could take it for granted that Haiti has made mistakes, but Haiti has also not been given the opportunity to self-correct. Haiti has not been given the opportunity to stand on its own too and say, we are the nation of Haiti. We made a mistake, and this is how we corrected it. A mistake that Haiti makes in the governance of itself does not negate the impact of a US invasion and occupation that lasted for 20 years. It's a silly argument. Yeah, it's a silly argument simply designed, to give criminal colonizers protection. And we have no time for them foolishness there. Yeah, and this is part of the problem. We have agency, but we use so much of our agency to protect the colonizer.
You love arguing with straw man. That's your problem. You love arguing with straw man because you can't deal with the argument, so you build up straw man.
You come on gotkushTV, and talk about the work we do. Yeah, in whatever organization you're the monks, for liberate African people. They are used for your agency to come protect America.
All right, so you change the subject now because you can't.
And thief out the goal and mash up the agriculture and kill off the government and change up the constitution and all them things there. You want to defend America when it comes to.
All right, so tell me now, what are the policies before 1915 that you would think?
Nope. You don't get to ask questions because you didn't answer my questions, right? That's to start with. Remember, I asked you to come on this panel because I have specific things I wanted to ask you, right?
Listen, I'm already 26 minutes over what I would normally do. We're going to get this 10 minutes.
Yeah, because you ramble.
And we're filibuster. Yeah, but I'm good looking and articulate, so me allow for ramble.
I share, and you put on the sheen to ramble if you damn please, right? But all right. So then I want to take hopefully less than 2 minutes to bring up some of the questions that Brother Coffee was saying earlier, right? To ask some questions based on what he was saying earlier. How could you separate the economic advancement of the United States of America from its global imperialist exploitative behavior? That's the first question, right? And I will repeat them if you need them repeated. Number two, you asked a question, why Black people in America are so rich? I would think that is but if they are richer than anybody else in the world, I would think that is because America itself is rich, is a very rich country. And therefore, this is what I was saying earlier, living in the center of Black people.
No effort on Black people part to take advantage of opportunities and advance themselves.
Did I say that? Or did I say that they live in the richest country?
You denied it.
No, I whatever. I never said that. I'm moving on, right?
Okay, all right. Sorry,
I'm saying, if they are richer than other populations of Atlantic Africans, it is likely because they are living in the richest country in the Western Hemisphere. No, that is not necessarily simply by nature of living there. I'm saying, I'm not denying that they might have had to work on their own, but tying it into my original question, if the reason that the United States is the richest country in the Western Hemisphere is as a result of their global imperialist exploitation, then one assumes that the benefits that Atlantic Africans in America get from being in the United States of America are also the result of that exploitation. It doesn't matter whether or not they are actually working hard themselves. The capital gain of the United States of America is ill-gotten gains, right? You asked earlier as well, why I'm not finished. You asked earlier
sorry.
Why there are different outcomes, political outcomes, based on because the brother ShakaRa was making the assertion that the states in Caribbean regions, and I can only speak for English-speaking Caribbean and really only Trinidad, the different states in the English-speaking Caribbean are neoliberal entities, and they are not indigenous. They are not, let's say, they're not loyal to the countries that they represent, right, or the populations that they represent. And you ask, why are there different outcomes if they're all neoliberal and they all owe obeisance or allegiance to the United States of America and neoliberal tendencies, right? Trinidad and Tobago is an oil state and a petrochemical state, and what is called them thing, a tax haven, not really a tax haven, but them places where you go to launder money. That's Trinidad, right? Jamaica is a mining state. Grenada is an agricultural state. St. Lucia is an agricultural state. So therefore, the neoliberal policies that are being dictated from abroad to benefit abroad are not going to look the same in each different island nation, because they don't have the same economy. They don't have the same population. They don't have the same history. You understand? So I don't think I'm the only one who is perceiving you as conflating a lot of...
Is that question you answer or cost me?
I don't think I cost you yet. And I think you would never cost you. Yeah, so, but anyway, all right, I'm gonna leave it there and let you answer the question.
Yeah, the
so
question long still. My brain
well, it's three separate questions.
Long, difficult question.
You gonna go them in reverse order? You gonna get them in reverse order?
Let me try. Let me make an attempt. Let me make a feeble attempt. You're right. Blacks in America, not just Black Americans, blacks in America are going to be wealthier than other blacks because America is the wealthiest, most productive nation on earth, right? So the idea that they're not going to be taking advantage of opportunities in America is not true, yeah? So yes, they will be taking advantage of those opportunities, and therefore they can come out on top. You said that America is rich because of imperialism. I said no. America is poorer than it would otherwise, is less rich than it otherwise would have been had it not been for its empire. Empires are
pause. Even if that is the case, brother Coffee.
Answer the question.
No, hold on, brother Coffee, because I think you are misrepresenting the facts.
I'm telling you, my brain can't take too much difficult.
No problem, brother.
No problem, brother.
Even if it is that the United States is less rich than it would have been without its empire, that does not negate that its riches may have come because of its empire.
All right, so let me
even if your premise is correct, and you still improve what you say.
Yeah, let me just answer. So empire is expensive, and Americans learn that every time they support these stupid interventionist wars, they become more poor, or they become poorer. How much? $2 trillion for 20 years to out the Taliban and then put back the Taliban in power? Who can pay for that? Not Bush and him bridging them, the American taxpayers. So the American taxpayers are poorer. America as a country is poorer as a result of the imperialist wars that them have. So empire don't make people rich. This is a fallacy that has been debunked over and over and over again. Empires do a lot of damage. That is beyond question. That's beyond doubt. But in terms of being rich,
I want you to come and debunk capitalism and slavery for us, because capitalism and slavery details how the United Kingdom built its wealth off of enslavement and imperialism. So I would like you to come and debunk it for us, since it has never been debunked yet.
And you know what? The reality is, even if you might be able to say, well, you can certainly make an argument, And I've heard the argument made that, in fact, you know, America's wealth came from this and America's wealth came from that. The reality is that because of the nature of colonialism and imperialism, it's impossible to explicate the colonial reality and the imperialist reality from it and act like the wealth was developed in the absence of, that this colonial project and this imperialist project contributed in no way, shape, or form.
All right, you're just making this. You're just making the same point.
It's not an intelligent argument to make.
You're just making the same point as the brother. So let me just answer the question since it's three against one. Or 4 against 1.
Are you the type of company? You use your agency to keep the link, Don't complain, no. No victim status around here, No, go ahead. All right.
To be fair, I went in the chat and I called him and tell him come on the panel. So to be fair to him,
blame him, don't blame me. Yeah.
No. You have a military industrial complex where you use for bringing on the panel. The military industrial complex. What you deal with? Him have a female and so you have to ask him, did him make a mistake? Yeah. When between 8 o'clock in the evening tonight, did he make a mistake when he decided to click the link with him own an agency around here? Blow.
So actually, but
make him answer the question. Make him answer the question.
The last question was about why you had different economic outcomes in the Caribbean, right? Yeah.
Yes, but you never answered the first question, which was how could you separate the advancement of the United States economy from its imperial exploitation?
Yeah, I don't separate it. It's making America poorer. Printing money and spending it on bombs does not make a country rich. It doesn't make it make people rich, like Halliburton and Bush and Bridget them or whoever, but it don't make a country rich. That's the point.
Think about this, right? It doesn't make America rich, but it does make everybody else poor, doesn't it?
Yes.
Okay, so therefore the lack of economic advancement of other nations is as a result of the imperialist movements of the United States of America.
Not all of them.
Obviously not all of them. Maybe not the ones who are also in their past.
Because I was coming around to that. I was coming around to that now. The different economic outcomes in the Caribbean. Yeah. No Jamaican in his right mind would tell you that the reason why the Bahamas is far better economically than Jamaica is because of American imperialism. That is rubbish. Every Jamaican who is honest with you can tell you that the reason why Jamaica is in the pit that it's in is because of the politics it adopted. Yeah. Yes, you can blame protectionism or Cold War rivalry between two superpowers, but that can't explain the deep rot. It can explain rot, but it can't explain the deep rot that Jamaica is. It can explain some, but it can't explain the majority of the reason why Jamaica is in a pit. Yeah? And I am saying that with Haiti is the same thing. You understand? Haiti is the policies. It is the whole idea that to change government, you have to burn down the place or assassinate your rival to gain control of the state. And the reason why they're all trying to gain control of the state, because the state is very powerful. The PAC-TV had an interview with a Haitian one time, and he was saying how he was in America, and he wanted to bring equipment and resources into Haiti after the earthquake to help rebuild, like every patriotic Haitian abroad, right? But in terms of red tape and corruption, government corruption, it's hard to import things, right? Who are you going to blame for that? America?
Brother, you can't.
Or the government?
I thought you were finished.
Yeah, man, I finished. Go on.
Oh yeah. How can you compare the Bahamas and Jamaica? Sorry, I just got a funny message. How you could compare the Bahamas and Jamaica as though they are equivalent when, number one, the Bahamas is a tax haven, right? So it's like, I don't know how you separate.
It's like what is stopping Jamaica from being a tax haven?
It's like when they bring up Singapore.
Good politics.
It's a tax haven.
Good politics.
So what?
Good politics.
Bad politics. The reason why Jamaica and the Bahamas, the reason why you can compare Jamaica and the Bahamas is simple. Majority black, Anglophone, Westminster. You understand? Nearness to
Are those the
America.
only? Hold on. Are those the only
Ex-slavery. So
facets of
it
a
all
society? Are they the only facets of a society which can or should be taken into account when we are studying economic development? The fact that they happen to be majority black, they happen to have come from enslavement.
No, I didn't say that. No, I'm just saying the reason why I can compare these two countries is because of those factors. That's all.
Well, actually, allow me. First things first, I want to apologize for interrupting you way earlier, right? And for continuing to interrupt you since then, because I'm a little bit heated right now. I think you're talking a bunch of foolishness on the panel.
Yo, if
get heated with me. I mean,
if this is heated, I free to see you get angry now because you're not heated right now at all. Like, I don't know.
I'm not living up to the. Sorry, I'm not living up to the manners that I hold myself to on a public platform, right?
I overstand. We can't argue.
Especially on somebody else's public platform.
I bring out the worst in people. I've been told I bring out the worst in people. So
well, actually, no. I want to take it away from that. I was actually going to say, Brother Coffee, that I to be honest with you, I honestly think there's a lot of value that you have to add to these kind of conversations, right? The problem is, again, I really will say you seem to take the conversation in a very different direction. Like, all right, so there's no reason that Africans should not be talking about economic advancement, especially within the context of Pan-Africanism and Pan-Caribbean, not identity, Pan-Caribbean political movements. There's no reason whatsoever we should not be speaking about economics, right? But I don't know if you remember the question. I don't know if you remember the question that I asked Angelo when you came in at first, right? And how we end up reaching to Keynes and at Hayek or whatever the other fella name is, how we end up reaching that from that discussion, strange to me, right?
Well, you can listen back. You can listen back.
I will have to.
I'm sure I'm not the one that derailed that. That's a part that was that they come with CIA. They come up with CIA and CIA sponsoring right-wing movements, and I was saying it's not just right-wing movements.
It wasn't about CIA sponsoring right-wing movements. It was about CIA sponsoring propaganda in general. Yeah. So
but he only mentioned right-wing.
The example that was given first and foremost was the birth of a nation. Yeah, right. So it had nothing to do with right wing versus left wing or nothing like that. It was about American propaganda.
Well, I was giving a more holistic
in relation to
view of the thing.
Yeah, in relation to painting itself as the global police of the world. That's why the term propaganda was used. Yeah, and then I gave the example of the MCU, right, as to contribute to what the brethren was saying. That's how, and then you decide for jump in with Frankfurt.
Yeah, because you make it look like say it's only right wing CIA sponsor, and that's not true.
But so is the MCU right wing? I don't consider the MCU to be right wing. It's neither of the two. It has some right wing elements to it. It has some left wing elements to it as far as the American propaganda is concerned. Yeah, it just depends on. And
they're supporting BLM now. Remember, BLM said that
they're also supporting the banning of CRT in how many different
that's what I said. So they support both sides because that's how you divide and conquer.
The point is that has nothing to do with the conversation that was being had. I think that's the point that Imhotep was making. It didn't really have anything to do.
Oh no, you never want.
I tell you what. And by the way, Coffee. Anyway. When me want and whatever is irrelevant right now, because you always get a good time to talk on the platform, yeah. So I don't know what you're complaining about. What's it called? I do want to know, because I did say we're gonna end in 10 minutes. We're over there at the moment. I did want to give Brother Angelo a word if he has anything to say on this, and then we'll close on that.
No man, I didn't have no closing remarks. I just think that a second time on the show, I think the whole Marxism versus neoliberalism thing takes up a significant portion of the discussion. So I think that's something for us to keep in mind next time.
I agree with that. You know what? I have been accused, yeah, of allowing these conversations to dominate the thing a bit too much, so I will have to listen to the people, you know what I'm saying, at some point, and curtail this a little more. Because we were dealing with some issues about family, yeah, earlier.
Yes,
We were
yeah.
talking about family structure, and we were talking about domestic violence and protecting our communities and so on and so forth, yeah. And so these are all very important issues that we can often,
But those issues can be divorced from economics. That's the point.
I don't.
Yes, they can. Yes, they can, my
No,
brother. Yes, they can.
Oh, they
100%.
can. Okay, all right.
Well,
Well, that's the problem.
Sorry,
That's the problem.
I would argue that you're correct, that they cannot be dealt with outside of a conversation on economics. But I would also put it to you that your definition of economics is different to mine, or let's say what you're considering economics is different to what I'm considering economics.
How you define economics?
No, that's another conversation for another time.
That's a simple definition.
But I'm saying to you, it's another conversation for another time. All right, it's another conversation. Yeah, but the reality is, however, that these are things that we can discuss without getting into Hayek and Keynes.
Yo, not blame me, blame me because you don't want to talk about certain issue. That's what that man.
But again, you always get time to speak, and you're always engaged, and people are telling me.
No, but you don't want to scapegoat me.
People are telling me, me met the man here, run away with the conversation the whole time. All I'm saying is that there are going to be times when I'm going to have to direct it a certain way, yeah, so that we can get.
So why them don't come on and talk?
Sorry, because they did today. That I literally just said we were having certain conversations, yeah, and so I'm simply saying that sometimes we're gonna have to you know look at the conversation a certain way and create more time to delve deeper, yeah, into some of the other issues that we're discussing, yeah. You know, because we know where you come from, Coffee. You know, when you come, one thing we are talking about, we know that, yeah, we know that go. But there are various different other topics. We went into Senegal today, and the army, you know, what I'm saying, in Senegal, and the brother Sunu, I believe his name is, who perished. You know, so there's so many topics, yeah.
Yeah, the failure of government again.
That we get to discuss.
The failure of government.
I would actually say that the failure of government in Senegal is actually a reflection of the triumph of neocolonialism. And so
I'll agree with that.
So we need to be fighting against neocolonialism. I'm glad you agree. But family, may I have to wrap up? Yeah, it's 11:15 on this side of the Atlantic. I'll give you one more Imhotep because I love you.
Now, just want you bless us. I want you chant your name them first because I could never pronounce your surname and I just don't want to misrepresent you when I'm there. So chant them African name for me now, brother.
Yeah, so my first name is Tafadzwa. Yeah, and then my second name is Nyasha. Tafadzwa means we have been made happy or we are pleased. That's a Shona name, Zimbabwe. And so yeah, it's simply this. I'm my parents' first child, so they are pleased to be parents. We are pleased, yeah. Nyasha simply means things like mercy, and it was given to me because I had a very calm spirit that my father says, you know, when I came into the world. And then ShakaRa is a name that I've developed for myself. So Shaka, warrior, king, you know, that kind of vibration, Zulu. And that was chosen because of Shaka's role in terms of unifying a nation. Ra is the energy of the creator as manifested in the sun, and has so many other meanings from ancient Kemet. And then Payam is the name of my great grandfather, who was the last African, the son of the last African in my ancestral lineage to be enslaved. And Bandaka. Yeah, Bandaka is before I was born, my father reclaimed all African names. At the time, he was studying Patrice Lumumba, and so had a significant connection. I felt a significant connection to Lumumba and his legacy. Bandaka is the name of a place in the Congo. Yeah, and so it represented like the return to our source. Yeah, that's what the name represented. Bandaka itself, the province in Congo is named after a river in the Congo, and I'm made to understand that in Kikongo, the language, Bandaka means to get something started or something like that. Yeah, to to put something in motion to get or something steer so, which is actually very deep. I understand who my father is and so on and so forth. So yeah, there's more into that. And Bandaka is a name that I'm always looking for more significance in terms of the literal meaning. Yeah. So anybody where know the Kikongo good, feel free to let me know. But give thanks for that, Steve. Good question.
You never said you want to actually wanted to hear though, which is I think you say Ochiame or something.
Oh no, yeah. So Ochiame is not actually my name. It's a Ochiame is a title. Yeah, in the Tree language. Yeah. So in Tree, you got two different O's. Yeah, O and O. Yeah, O is the one. Anyway, right, we're not going to that. But the KY is pronounced Ch as in Tree, and Ochiame is a title for a spokesperson. Yeah. Yeah, that's simply what it means. So oftentimes within the Asante Hene, the spokesperson either advocates on behalf of others. So he will speak on behalf of the king or speak on behalf of the people to the, you know what I'm saying? So the Ochiame has a role in terms of communication within the nation and keeping equilibrium in the nation through the art of communication. That the Ochiame could be a poet. The Ochiame, you know what I'm saying? And the likened to Ochiame is Ochelema, which is the drummer, but the drummer is also a poet oftentimes as well. Yeah, so that's so that but also on social media, because I was known as ShakaRa Speaks a lot of the time. So I use ShakaRa Ochiame in place of the Speaks. Yeah, you know what I'm saying, a lot of the time as well. So yeah. Well, yeah, give thanks for that. Give thanks for that. Mr. Bunya, who has some expertise in these matters because he's married to a Congo, says is to begin to speak. Yeah, I think in Kikongo. Yeah. So we give thanks, All right, but give thanks, Angela. Give thanks for coming through once again, King. As always, you're welcome. Yeah, anytime you want to come through.
Yeah, no problem, man.
Yeah, give blessings. Give thanks, Coffee. You don't know, you're welcome. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man, respect.
With your neoliberalism, you know what I mean? But we'll entertain you before the revolution, you know what I'm saying? It's all good. Iwatep, as always, you're welcome. Give thanks, yeah, King. Give thanks. All right, family, you know what I'm saying? Another dynamic conversation, yeah. I like the places that we went today. Give thanks for the sistering, Monique. Yeah, Monique, you're always welcome once again, sister. Feel free to come through. And yeah, I love this. I love the diaspora energy that flux to this particular platform. We've had people from Ghana and Zimbabwe and South Africa come through at different points, so we give thanks for that, for that energy, and we're gonna make sure that we consciously facilitate more global Pan-African conversation, you know what I'm saying, in these spaces. So with that, I say once again, if you want to stay in tune with gotkushTV, feel free to hit up the Patreon. The Patreon too. If you want to support us, if you want to support what we are doing, look up the Patreon. You can find the link in the description to the video. We also, if you're struggling to receive our notifications, we also have a Telegram group that we're going to just be posting. Whenever we're going live or releasing a video, you'll get the notification straight. So feel free to join this particular group. You can hit up the link once again in the description to the video. On Thursday, going to be releasing 2 videos in relation to our Women of Power Summit that we held a couple years ago. And in future weeks, we're going to be having releases from Alchemy, dealing with African spirituality, from our Blacktricity event looking at repatriation. We're also going to be shooting and releasing more episodes of Kush Communiversity and all kind of different things. Yeah, so do stay tuned for all of the above. 10-9 Mwadi. Be thankful unto the mother, father, creative life force of the universe. Kudzai Muzimu Mukulu. Give praises unto our great ancestors. Bibi Tumi. Bibi Fahodie. African liberation and African power for all African people. Ashe, ashe, ashe.
Fire burn them dirty king, blaze up them dirty king, fire burn them king, send him disastrous, and time he fast with us, ancestors walk with us, fire burn them king.
Mina bakabusi nengre me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre me fele sama.
Ayo me fele sama.
Me fele sama.
Mama me fele sama.
Me fele sama.
Sisa me fele sama.
Me fele sama.
Ay mama me fele sama.
Me fele sama.
Brother me fele sama.
Me fele sama. Me fele sama. Me fele sama. Me fele sama. Me fele sama. Me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre mine pele